It's Dan Arthur here for the I Love St. Pete Facebook group. If you're a business owner looking to connect with tens of thousands of potential new local customers, you owe it to yourself to get enrolled in our Key Tag Rewards program. Since 2019, we've signed up more than 200 local merchants. Sponsor opportunities are available too, such as our group banner ad and even your own custom key tags. Just go to stpetekeytag.com, get enrolled, and get ready to get busy. stpetekeytag.com.
Come to Sam Ash for hundreds of exclusive holiday deals on music and sound gear from the most iconic brands. Save big on professional and starter guitars, drums, digital pianos, horns, violins, DJ, and electronic production equipment. Supercharge your home studio with deals on podcasting, streaming, and AV equipment like speakers, microphones, headphones, and acoustic treatment. Plus, with 36 months no interest financing on thousands of items, you can get the gear of your dreams right now. From our incredible selection and service to our lowest price guarantee for over 95 years, real musicians know you only go to Sam Ash.
BetUS.com. If you guys are betting on the games, whether it's NFL, NCAA, of course, you're not going to do that now. Maybe basketball, not football, but of course, the NHL, NBA, go to BetUS.com. You get a 125% sign-up bonus. And also, if you use this code right here, the promo code of TSW22, which, by the way, stands for the sports web, TSW22, or call that number 1-800-69-BET-US. Again, 1-800-69-BET-US, and put in that promo code TSW22, and I would really appreciate that.
I've had 27 beers spilled on me. Make that 28.
I've only got one place to go before the game.
BetUS.com.
Sign up at BetUS.com and get the best bonuses in the industry.
Christmas, say, I love football. Say this. Say Tampa. Bay. Bay. Tampa. Tampa. Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. Say Tampa.
Tampa.
Bay. Bay. Oh my God, she's so smart and she's so precious. I love her to death.
What's going on? Welcome back to another edition of the evolution of Sports Talk Television here live on I Love St. Pete and the Hub. Somebody the other night was calling it the Sports Hub, but it's the Hub there. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. And how do we start off this show on a happy hump day? Bring the passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. On tonight's show, we'll have Denis Phillips of ABC Action News, meteorologist. But on this show, we talk sports, talk about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of course, losing to the LA Rams. And now the NFC Championship is set between the Rams and 49ers. Who do you like? We'll talk about that. Of course, your AFC Championship game, not your, but I guess it is your if you're a football fan. Of course, the Kansas City Chiefs versus the upstart young Cincinnati Bengals. And then at 10:15, we'll have the madman himself, Mr. Mark Mancini of Mancini Media, former XPW announcer and XM Sirius radio host, talking about the national perspective when it comes to the playoffs and also some WWE, possibly AEW wrestling. And then, of course, take your phone calls as always. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391 as we wait for Denis Phillips. Let's go ahead and put this out there. 19 years tonight. Bucs fans, did you know that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won their first Super Bowl over the then Oakland Raiders 48-21? Did you know that? Did you guys know that?
How about them Bucks, baby?
Has it been that long? 19 years. So you guys being Bucs fans, I want your best memory from that game. And I don't care if it's about the game leading up to it, the NFC Championship game, that season. I want your best memory of it. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. We'll again talk with Denis Phillips of ABC Action News about, is Tom Brady, does he think Tom Brady's going to retire? Does he think he's going to come back? I don't know what to say. I don't know what to think at this point. I like to be optimistic, but who knows what's in Brady's head at this point? Who knows? Now, I do know what Rob Gronkowski had to say, and this is according to Jenna Lane and also in care of TMZ Sports. If they're like, Rob, you got to decide right now, and again, this would be Rob Gronkowski, right this second if you're playing next year. I would say right now, it's 2 days after the season. I'd be like, nope, I'm not playing. You got to give it some time. You got to rest, see how everything goes, to see how everything plays out, how I feel. I just want to heal completely, see where my thoughts are from there. Then he also says, if I had to answer right now, it would be no, but you never know. In 3 weeks, it might be yes. It might be yes.
Yes! Yes!
It might be
Yes!
yes.
Yes!
I think it depends on what Brady's going to do. Honestly, I think it depends on what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to do as an organization. And yes, I know you're going to like this. Troy Polamalu, King Troy, Trojan legend. Reports out of Jacksonville last night say the next head coach is going to be offensive coordinator of the Bucs, Byron Leftwich. Also, Sean Payton retired possibly for a year or two from the Saints. He left yesterday. So plenty to talk about when it comes to coaching news. Let me go out to the comments, and then we'll get out to Denis Phillips of ABC Action News. Christopher Cole says, hey, Peter, looking forward to seeing what we do in free agency in the draft. LFG. Agree with that.
How about them Bucks, baby?
And I think a lot of people say, well, you know, you like to be playing right now. Of course you like to be playing right now, but you're not. So you have to turn the page and look ahead and see what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to do when it comes to the players that are going to be staying and the players that are going to be going. We heard from BA on Monday what he would expect, what his expectations are of this team, saying we're not sure if we're going to keep everybody because of the salary cap and because of some players may not necessarily be fitting in anymore. Troy Polamalu again, fire Leftwich and Bulls. Troy Polamalu, the Buccaneers owe Antonio Brown millions in emotional damages. We'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that because there was an interview put on by Bryant Gumbel of HBO Sports. And I'm going to go ahead and be a surgeon tonight and dissect that. It's going to be some fun. You're going to have to tune in, kids, okay? Rob Rashute says, oh, man, Peter, I'm worried Giselle is trying to keep her man off the field. Certainly possible. Leftwich. Roger Shoe says, I'm here. Thank you very much. Tribal Troll, thanks a lot. Giselle will become the most hated woman in Tampa. Besides that, gosh darn, Carol Baskins. And Corey says, how about Antonio Brown video? We will get to that. We'll also get to the comments because the question that I posed last night on Facebook, after hearing this interview, do you believe him? If you're not the Bucs, another NFL respected team, would you want him? Well, again, we'll dissect that interview. Let's get out to Mr. Denis Phillips, and we'll get his intro on. Here we go. All right, Denis Phillips of ABC Action News, and welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. I feel like we should have like like a breeze sound or some wind type of sound, because it's been cold in the Bay Area. First and foremost, how long is this cold stretch going to last? Welcome to the Evolution.
Thanks, Peter. Middle of next week. By the way, every single time you play that, all the people in the newsroom jump under the desks because they think we're under attack. So, I mean, maybe we should try something different. I don't know.
That's great. Okay, well, maybe we will try something different. Of course, I don't want to get killed by Facebook for copyright. I love to play some type of music, but Facebook, when you monetize, they want to have restrictions and stuff like that. With all that being said, your thoughts on the loss on Sunday versus the Rams, 30-27. This team down 27-3. The majority of the game pretty much down and out, and then somehow, some way, Tom Brady in this offense, and then of course this defense also causing some turnovers, makes some things happen. Your thoughts?
Yeah, turnovers are the things you can never handicap. I mean, the Bucs were lucky in the sense that Cam Akers fumbled just before half, or it might have been out of reach right then. I mean, it was. That was as fortunate as it gets. The way Cooper Kupp fumbled, that too was unexpected, and then Cam Akers fumbles again, which. Then you kind of wonder if going ahead next year, is he going to be one of those backs that has ball control issues? And outside of that, the guy's a beast. I mean, the fact that the Bucs did a really nice job containing him, because they did. I mean, if you had watched him the week before and the previous couple of weeks, I mean, the guy was really, really rounding into shape. And then all of a sudden he ran into the Bucs D and really couldn't do much. So you had to think, all right, well, they're not going to be able to run on the Bucs, and we kind of figured that the Bucs might be able to control the running game. But boy, at the end of the day, it seems like there's two teams that have the Bucs number: the Saints and the Rams. And I'm sure the Bucs are happy that Sean Payton's gone, because maybe some of that dominance from New Orleans, or at the very least the way that they played him, which was always really tough, might be taking a break. But the Rams, I mean, they didn't luck out. I mean, they handled them earlier in the year. I mean, that sometimes certain teams have other teams' numbers, and you wonder if the Rams right now is that team. I mean, if we had AB and we had Godwin, would things have been different? There's always a lot of ifs. Look at the Bucs, and look at the Chiefs and the Bills games, for heaven's sake, with what ifs.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the Bucs did about as well as I think they possibly could have, with all their injuries and everything else. And that's the one thing. It's been, the Bucs have had a tough time keeping teams off the board with good passing attacks all year long. Obviously Matthew Stafford and that offense made them pay. I mean, I think nobody should be unhappy. I mean, disappointed, yeah, but given what they had to overcome, it shouldn't surprise a lot of folks.
You're exactly right. And you're without Tristan Wirfs in this game. Of course, Chris Godwin, no Antonio Brown. So already you're down. This team has faced adversity all year long. You have 13 wins, 14 wins, including the Philadelphia game. With all that being said, what did you think of that decision by Todd Bowles to bring that all-out blitz? Even Tony Dungy had some problem with it, saying, you know what, give him the 15 yards and then go to overtime. But instead, it looks like Todd Bowles wanted to go all-out blitz. Some guys didn't even get the communication, and Cooper Kupp, once again, being a natural-born killer when it comes to killing the Bucs, and that's exactly what he did last Sunday.
I mean, he's the best receiver in football. Him and Devontae Adams. I mean, look at his numbers. I mean, it isn't like this was some no-name taking advantage of that defense. I mean, Kupp's amazing, and but I agree with you, and it's the same thing in that Bills and Chiefs game where. A lot of folks saying, why didn't they squib kick to Kansas City come with 13 seconds left? And why did they not only rush two and then just put everybody back in there? So, 2020, you can always look at it after the fact and say, I mean, I'm sure Bowles like, look, I went with what got us there. But yeah, you have to wonder if it would have played out very differently if he hadn't done it. But at the end of the day, again, I hate to say this, but at the end of the day, based on who was on the field, the Rams were a better team. I just think they were.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And that's what I was telling Bucs fans, as much as it pains me to say it. And we're on with Denis Phillips of ABC Action News, meteorologist, but on this show, he's a sports broadcaster. on the Sports Web Live on I Love St. Pete in the Hub. The Rams were clearly the better team at that point. The Bucs didn't start to get their stuff together until they started causing turnovers, but that defense had no answer. Todd Bowles had no answer. Offensively, I think this is probably the most that Brady was pressured since the New Orleans game. And look, when you're missing Tristan Wirfs, and I was surprised because I thought Wirfs was going to play in this game. And once he didn't, I said, Josh Wells, you're going to have to keep Gronk in. You're not keeping Gronk in because all you have is Evans at that point and all the other wide receivers. So to me, it was a mess at that point. And at the end of the day, people will talk about this Rams offense, but really this defense with Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, and Jalen Ramsey are scary.
They are, but with all the things that went against the Bucs, the injuries and AB gone and everything else, they still almost found a way to do it, which is miraculous. I mean, the way that they were able to come back, and you're right, it was turnovers. It was turnovers, which, by the way, was a big part of how the Bucs beat the Saints and the Packers last year to win the Super Bowl. And we've said it from day one: you cannot handicap turnovers. You just don't know. It's a matter of luck a lot of times. And the way that Akers fumbled just before half, I mean, talk about good fortune, and then the Cup fumble was a forced fumble, and the Akers fumble at that point, the second one was as well. But, those are things that, some Ds, there's some Ds, some years are just really, they have their plus turnovers like crazy. That same D the following year are minus. You just never know how it's going to play out. But at the end of the day, you look back at that team, they did as much as they possibly could. They just fell a little bit short. And sure, if Godwin had been there and if AB had been there, would it have been different? Probably. But unfortunately, that's just not the way it played out. And I don't think they have anything to be ashamed about. I mean, I kind of hate that because it's a gut kick, when you lose. But you honestly felt as though outside of the blitz, like you said, to force overtime, obviously what would have been overtime. The Bucs got as much out of their guys as they could have gotten in that game, I think. I mean, they really did. And obviously at that point, a lot of that was Tom Brady the last quarter and a half for sure.
No, absolutely. And we'll get back to Brady in a moment. The worst part about it is not only Cooper Kupp kills you, but Matt Gay, another former kicker in the National Football League that is excelling at this point. You've got Cairo Santos in Chicago, Matt Gay kicking the game winner. Of course, coming into the game, 70% at Raymond James Stadium, couldn't kick at all. Of course, Nick Folk now with the New England Patriots. But that's the thing about it. And then on top of it, we talked about it all year long with this team. They flick on the switch, but when you get down early on, you may be able to get away with that stuff with the Jets or the Panthers, but you can't do that versus the Rams. So in your opinion, going back to Brady, seeing what you've seen, and also hearing some of his comments the last couple of days, is this the last time we're going to see Tom Brady, or is he going to come back for another year, in your opinion?
It's interesting. I was listening to his podcast on Monday on NFL Network. Great. And they asked him the question. This was a great question. They asked him the question, do you want to have a farewell tour like Ben Roethlisberger did? And he's like, nope, that's not my thing. Now, whether he was just saying that because he was on the radio or what, I don't know. But he's like, no, you know what? That's not really my thing. I'm more interested in what's happening on the field with my teammates and all those things. Because in my mind, I kept thinking to myself, he'd probably like to have a farewell tour. I mean, he's not camera shy. The guy's doing commercials for crypto and for Subway and all these other stuff. So, and it's awesome that he does it. But he's not one of those guys who's afraid to be in the limelight. So it kind of made me think, well, maybe he's going to want to do the farewell tour, because a lot of people do. A lot of big name players have done it, right? A lot of the best players ever have done it.
Sure. But
I thought that was an interesting answer, that he's not really interested in the whole farewell tour. That one I was kind of surprised by, but my gut keeps telling me he's got one more year in him. I mean, I know nothing more than anybody else does, but there was just something inside me that thinks, you know what? He's going to get his family time over the next 3 or 4 months. And it might be, who the Bucs bring back in free agency, or who they're able to save, or who they're not, or whatever. But I still kind of think he's got one more season left. I don't think that's hopes more than anything else. I don't think I'm skewing my perspective, because that's what I hope. But because, as I said on Twitter, I said, look, whether you love or you hate Tom Brady, the NFL is better with him in the league.
Yeah.
I just believe that.
Absolutely. And I get it. Everybody wants to go on to the young quarterback, as they should with the Patrick Mahomes and the Josh Allen. And we'll get back to that performance by both of those teams in that divisional playoff. In fact, the whole weekend was tremendous. But of course, you want to see Tom Brady. Do you think this basically is a question of, is it his family that you think could be pushing him towards retirement? Giselle, his kids maybe missing out? Is it the fact of, possibly losing a Byron Leftwich, losing the coaching staff, losing a lot of players? So the Bucs basically once again have to go all in. I mean, what do you think the biggest factor, determining factor? Because you heard from Rob Gronkowski the last couple of days, and even he was asked, right now I can't make a decision. I had to give it a couple of weeks. I had to give it a couple of days to heal up. But right now, if you're asking me, I'm retiring. So does it come back to, if Brady's ready, this Buccaneer organization is ready, even that they lose a Byron Leftwich, can they get enough players to make Brady and Gronk come back? Or do you think that's not even a factor? It's more family.
No, I think it's totally a factor. Why do you think he chose Tampa?
Right.
Do you think he chose? I don't think it was the money.
No.
I think he chose Tampa because they had no wide receivers in New England, and they had a stable of wide receivers in Tampa. And I think he felt as though that the pieces were in place for him to immediately win a Super Bowl. And he was right. But if you have guys, no disrespect, but if you have guys like Scotty Miller, out there as opposed to Chris Godwin, you have to wonder. He doesn't want to come back. I would feel real confident saying he doesn't want to come back unless he feels as though there's a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl, because there's no need for him to otherwise.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're exactly right about that. And I'll tell you another thing. Yeah, again, I think it comes back down to how much the Bucs are willing to spend. I think they're willing to spend that money. And also, not only do you talk about Godwin, because you're going to have to pay him some big money, but I would think whatever happens with OBJ, their relationship has been talked about. In fact, the Bucs passed on him because they had Antonio Brown already on the roster. With that being said, what is your thoughts on this Brown situation? You saw the HBO interview last night. Now he's talking about suing the Bucs. He's making all these accusations, $200,000 to send him to the crazy house. I mean, really, can this guy just go away? And then on top of it, Dennis, he posted a uniform of him in a Baltimore Raven uniform playing with Lamar Jackson. Could you see any other NFL team taking a chance on him?
I don't know. You asked about what do we think's going on. I think there's this side. I think there's this side, and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I don't think the Bucs are blameless in this. I don't. I think there were some things that set off AB. I think the Bucs, when they signed AB, they knew what they were getting. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't getting a model citizen. They knew there would be some issues. But you know what? They didn't care because they needed him, in their opinion, to get a Super Bowl. And they did. So now are there people who say, well, AB shouldn't have done this? Absolutely. But I just think in my mind, they're both responsible. They're both responsible for what happened. I don't think it was handled well on either side. And will anybody else sign him? I don't know. I would have said yes until he pulled off his uniform and his shirt and ran around in the end zone. That to me, that might have sealed his fate. I don't know. There's a lot of things that management and the ownership will tolerate, but have you ever seen that before in the history of sports, or at least in the history of the NFL, player doing that?
No, you never seen that. And him and his attorney were on there last night. Again, they look like they were lit. I mean, they look like they were high. Their eyes were red. He looked completely out of it. And then they were, talking about how the Bucs have made him look he's mentally unstable, this and that. No, you've made yourself look mentally unstable, and that's the reason why NFL teams are not going to pick you up. So that whole situation, I'm going to get into that in a moment because there's a lot of comments on it, so we'll see what happens. Let's go to those playoff games with the Bills and the Chiefs. A lot of people said, you know what, we would like to see the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen get back the ball in overtime. Do you think the NFL should look at that rule going forward here, or do you think they're going to keep it the same because of, what transpired last Sunday?
The same thing that happened in 2018-2019 season with the Patriots and the Chiefs. And Mahomes never got on the field in overtime. So it certainly happened before, and you almost have to wonder, if the NFL didn't do anything when it involved Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, are they going to do anything when it involved Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen? I don't think they're going to do anything. And boy, I see both sides to this argument. You got the purists who say, hey, if your defense holds them and get your ball back, you're right. You got, hey, they had only 13 seconds that they had to keep them from scoring. It wouldn't have gone to overtime. You're right. Both of those are valid arguments. But at the same time, forget this game in general. Let's just talk about any playoff overtime game. Is it right that the team that wins a coin toss has a huge advantage? How big of an advantage, you ask? Dating back to 2011, there have been 11 playoff games in the NFL. 10 of them were won by the team that won the coin toss. So to me, that is the issue. I mean, I don't care about the Bills and the Chiefs game in this argument. I don't think the winner of a coin toss should have a significant advantage over another team when you've already played 4 quarters. I don't think it's a legitimate way to solve that game. I just don't. I hate it.
I agree with you on it, and I think the NFL should look at it, and you look at those explosive offenses and seeing those quarterbacks. I mean, honestly, do you think fans would not want to see maybe another quarter of football between both of those teams? Absolutely. We're on with Denis Phillips of ABC Action News here on the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, live here on I Love St. Pete, the hub. I'm going to call it the Sports Hub when we're on. With all that being said, are you surprised by Cincinnati and Tennessee? I mean, you would think Cincinnati with Derrick Henry back and Ryan Tannehill, but Cincinnati's defense really stepped up, and once again, Joe Burrow. So any chance, in your opinion, and I know this is a crazy question because you always have a chance, it's the National Football League, any chance the Cincinnati Bengals can defeat the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday?
They're the hot team. I mean, they already beat them 3 weeks ago. Now, granted, different situation, and they were at home and whatnot. I'll tell you, talking about the Titans, that shouldn't have been a big surprise. Derrick Henry, yeah, he was back. But was he back? Was he really back?
Right.
You miss how many games with a broken foot or whatever. He wasn't fully healthy. Matter of fact, Foreman ran way better than Derrick Henry did. Not even close. And then you've got Ryan Tannehill, who has not had a particularly good year. Now, granted, he didn't have a lot of his receivers. I mean, they were hurt. A.J. Brown was hurt a lot of the time. But Tennessee was not trending in the right direction, if you will, right? Tennessee was not peaking. The Bengals were. The Bengals have been peaking at the right time. And we all know in sports, the team that's on a roll going into the playoffs, it doesn't really matter what their record is in the regular season because they've just got that momentum going, and it has a tendency to continue. I mean, it's like the hot goaltender in hockey, the hot pitcher in baseball, the hot hitter. So to me, yeah, they absolutely have a shot. They're a 7-point underdog, so Vegas doesn't give them much of a shot. Why is that? Because they're not supposed to be there in a lot of people's minds. And KC is the team that's always supposed to be there. But would I pick Cincinnati? I'm in a lock pool, and we're down to 2 games, and I probably will end up taking KC, but I don't want to because I think it could go either way. And I'm totally staying away from the Rams and the Niners. No way down that one.
No way. I mean, Harry thinks, and we'll go back to the Green Bay San Francisco game. It's all about, 3 facets of the game, right? Offense, defense, and special teams. Green Bay special teams all year long has been horrible. It really came back to bite them last Saturday night. So San Francisco, their dominance over the Rams, in your opinion, can the Rams get over that proverbial hump, if you will, with the 49ers, or were the 49ers go to Super Bowl 56?
First of all, Harry's going to yell at me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Harry took the Raiders over the Bengals. So just remember that. Now, and said that they were going to win outright. Now, granted, they didn't cover, although they probably should have covered. But nevertheless, I say that because I think at this point in time, it's who knows, right? I mean, who knows how is it going to play out? Here's the thing about the Niners. I love the Niners. Debo got hurt last game. He came back, and he's probably okay. Kittle was pretty much not much of a factor at all, which was surprising to me. Eli Mitchell has had injury problems, all of which, by the way, Mitchell and Debo, I had on my fantasy team this year. Love those guys. I think at the end of the day, the game is in L.A., which probably doesn't matter that much. There'll be maybe 40% Niner fans there. But wouldn't it be amazing that after how many decades the home team had never been the team that was hosting the Super Bowl that made it, and 2 years in a row it happened? Because it certainly seems like it could happen again. I think Akers will run much better on the Niners than he ran on the Bucs. And the only question will be, can he keep a hold of the ball? Will he continue to have this fumbling issue? And if that's the case, will they decide to go with Sony Michel instead, or Darrell Henderson? But I don't know. I think right now, to me, I like the Rams in the game, even though I really, really, really thought the Niners could surprise the Packers. Plus the points, I really liked them. It shouldn't have happened. I mean, let's be honest. Their offense did nothing against Green Bay. Nothing.
Nothing.
But it was the special teams, fluke special teams plays caused them to win that game. I don't think the Niners offense will be powerful enough to keep up with the Rams offense, even though they did 2 weeks ago. Obviously.
You're absolutely right. All right. I got a friend who wants to come in and say hi.
Harry. Oh, of course it's Harry.
All right, Harry the Green.
Yeah, boy, the minute I said that, I knew I'd be getting a call. Boy, Dennis, that wasn't very nice. Why'd you say that?
Oh, stop. No, Dennis, it's right. I got to take it where tickets due. I mean, I have my lumps every once in a blue moon. I'd love to say, by the way, first off, hi, Dennis. How you doing, buddy?
Harry, thanks for helping us out with our show the last couple of weeks. I was at home dealing with a viral issue, and I was sitting at home, and I was watching the news, and all of a sudden I see Harry on the news at 11 o'clock. I'm like, wow, that was pretty on our newscast because he had done the special.
Yeah.
And then they used a soundbite, and I texted him, and I think he must have been in bed because I didn't hear back. But that was pretty awesome, and you looked good. You sounded knowledgeable, so you fooled everybody, man. It was awesome.
I've learned from the best, especially the guy who tries to predict the weather. I mean, it's raining and then it doesn't rain.
100% true. 100% true.
No, I'll tell you what, man. I have to say, Dennis, I am so happy with what the Cincinnati Bengals have done. Yes, I got that game wrong, but should I have really gotten that game wrong? No. But you know what? It's still a loss. I still lost money.
Yeah,
I think Green Bay should have covered, but they didn't. But you're right; they should have.
And you know what? I got lucky in one and unlucky in the other. And
it happens that way. We know this.
Believe me, I loved Frisco. I predicted that Frisco would beat Dallas on the road, and that I said that Frisco.
We both did. If you remember that call, we both hit that one.
And Frisco on top of it to beat the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. That game never should have happened that way. It never should have. Their offense was completely inept in that game.
Both offenses were completely inept in that game.
Well, that was more San Francisco's defense. Man, that defense is good, bro. Yeah. Oh my God, that defense is good.
Well, mark my words, they ain't going to look nearly as good this coming weekend. I personally think I like Cam Akers a lot. I like the guy a lot. And if they have any faith in him, not putting the ball in the turf, I think he has a big game against the Niners.
I got to agree with you. I don't think they're going to run as good on the Rams like you said that they're going to. I just think that on the 49ers, I just think that the Rams are going to beat this team. That's just my opinion.
Me too.
And I'm starting to lean, and I'm starting to lean a little bit. Yeah, Peter, I see him looking at me. I'm starting to lean a little bit towards Cincinnati here. I don't know why. Their defense.
Is it 7? Is it 7?
It's 7 points. It's going to be 8.5 by the time game time starts, man.
Wow.
I'm imploring. I don't know what it is about this team. They don't have a very good offensive line. He's getting sacked a whole bunch of times. Kansas City's strongest part of this team, believe it or not, right now is their defense. It's not their offense. I mean, their offense is playing really well. I mean, to a certain degree, but that defense is what made this team this year, especially in the second half of the season. But man, Joe Burrow, the Bayou Bengal himself, man. I mean, he's balling, man. Jamar Chase.
What was he sacked 9 or 10 times? I think it was 9.
9 times.
He was sacked 9 times, and they still won that game.
And I can't understand how in the world. I mean, how many times he was hit? That was just. I can't explain it to me for the life of me. So I have a question.
Is Kansas City going to get that kind of pressure on him?
I think Kansas City will get pressure on him, and I'll tell you why. Because they're going to have a little easier time trying to cover a wide receiver, not 2 wide receivers.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
That's why, personally, that's just me. It's the same thing. And I was talking about, with your counterpart with, Jameson himself, we were talking, and this wasn't something that was public, that was aired. But when we were talking about what's going to make the Rams beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or why do the Rams cover against the spread? And I says, because they have to worry about one receiver, and that's Mike Evans. And if the Tampa Bay's offense doesn't change and they keep that risk it, no biscuit mentality, that means Gronk's going to have to get out of the backfield, who usually blocks for Donovan Smith. But seeing how the whole right side of defense on the offensive line was decimated, they had no chance. I mean, Brady looked like a pinball out there going off one bank to the other. I mean, how they got back into the game, I have no idea.
Donovan Smith just looked like a mediocre tackle, and a lot of Bucs fans were just reverting back to their old Donovan Smith ways.
Don't take me off. I got to turn my light on. Don't take me off.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about Von Miller. How do you think the Garoppolo is going to handle these guys? I mean, again, I get it. They played 2 weeks ago. Rams jumped up to a really big early 17-0 lead. Somehow the Niners came back. Deebo Samuel, one of the biggest reasons. I love Deebo. I wonder if that injury that he suffered, I mean, I haven't heard really much about it. Maybe it didn't, but I don't know why. I just think the Rams win by about 10. The Chiefs game, I don't know. I'm kind of with you, Harry. Like I said earlier, it's sometimes in the playoffs you get that team that's just getting on a roll, and the Chiefs seem to be that kind of a team right now.
Yeah, I totally get it. Another thing, Dennis, and that's something that I watched after watching the game versus the Cowboys. After the Rams played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yes.
Something I did notice in their past 2 games, and especially against that San Francisco game, there were some unlucky breaks for the Rams to allow Tampa to get back into that game like that. But what I noticed in the past 2 games, their defense got tired. I'm not kidding you. That defense got a little bit tired in the fourth quarter. And
the front or the secondary?
No, the secondary did. Definitely. Well, the secondary got really tired.
Especially Ramsey, who got beat by Mike Evans, clearly, with a 55-yard touchdown that got the Bucs back into that game. So...
But here's my question. Do you think Garoppolo can stress that secondary as much as Brady did?
No. You know what? I'm going to take that back. In this game, yes, I think they can. And I'll tell you why. Because of the lack of receivers and the weapons that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had on the field. You can argue all you want, everybody out there, the Bucs Nation, Scotty Miller, Johnson, and these are not deep threats. Okay, no. They're deep threats when you have Antonio Brown on the field, and when you have a Chris Godwin, and when you have a Mike Evans out there, and you bring one in at a time. Yes, you're going to always have single coverage. You're going to go deep. They're not fooling anybody right now. I'll tell you what, San Francisco, if they want to go deep, they're going to be able to go deep. But I don't know how much success Garoppolo's going to have. I think they need to get back to the basics and run the football. But I said it before in some of the other shows, Dennis. I don't know if you heard about it or not, but I think it would really kind of slightly surprise you if I told you that the 49ers are a very well-balanced team. Everybody thinks they're strictly a run team, and it's not the case. I mean, Garoppolo missed 4 or 5 games, and he passed for almost 4,000 yards.
I mean, you're talking to a fantasy guy, so trust me, I know those numbers. I mean, Brandon Ayuk, and I mean, he's a guy who really did next to nothing this year, which was a surprise because a lot of people thought he was going to be he was going to be their deep threat. Debo was used every bit as much as a running back as he was a receiver. They did not use Debo as the deep threat. And certainly Kittle is not a deep threat. I mean, he's a Gronk-like kind of a player. But we just named 3 receivers that are all really, really solid receivers. And then you throw in Eli Mitchell, who, again, the problem with the Niners this year is they could not keep their backs healthy. And that's the problem with the Niners every year. Eli Mitchell missed 6 or 7 games. His other 11 games, he's still at 1,000 yards rushing. I mean, the guy is a stud.
Yes.
And again, I had him on my fantasy team, so I know. So I'm just telling you, I don't disagree with you. I mean, I like the Niners. I do. I just think the Rams are in a position that being at home and looking ahead to a home Super Bowl, there's just something that makes me think that they're going to find a way through. But I'm with you 100%. I love the Niners. I'm not a Garofalo fan necessarily. I mean, of his work on the field. And it'll be interesting to see once Trey Lance gets in there, not this year, but maybe next, and to see what it does with that offense, opening it up even more. So it could be a great game. I mean, it was a high-scoring game at the end of the season just for them to make the playoffs. So we'll see how it plays out. Usually playoff games outside of Buffalo and Kansas City, are typically a little more defensive-oriented. But, boy, it hasn't been that way this year, has it?
It has not been that way. And Denis, Harry has said that he sees a lot of what the Bucs did last year in the Rams this year. Is that how you see it? Is this team on a mission to where they could possibly threaten that record to win a Super Bowl in their home stadium?
Yeah, I mean, that's a different situation. Last year was all about Tom Brady. I mean, it just was. I mean, from the minute that he left New England to come here, I mean, Peter, I remember you saying it last year, first or second game of the year.
Yep.
If they don't win the Super Bowl, it's not a good year. I mean, and I don't remember if you said it that way, but you definitely said you thought they were going to win the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl
or bust. Yeah, the Bucs. Yeah, because of all of the pieces that they had together, that receiving core. I don't know. I don't think them winning at home really matters to the team per se. I just think Matthew Stafford is loving the opportunity to play outside of Detroit and showing what he can really do, which is win a playoff game, which he hadn't done. And then you got OBJ, which I'm not an OBJ fan. I have never been an OBJ fan. And yet he's really stepped in, and while things are going well, which is usually the way it is with OBJ, if it's going well, he's a happy camper. But if he doesn't get the ball, and then things start to fall apart. But you're not seeing a lot of that drama in LA with those players that maybe you did in other places. I wonder if the table is set for the Rams and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and certainly that's the way Vegas is looking at it. But after this last weekend, who the heck knows? Because every underdog, every road team, I mean,
comes down to a field goal or comes down to a walk-off touchdown. I mean, this probably was the most impressive playoffs that they've had in their history, you would have to say, guys.
Dennis, I'm not kidding you, man. I mean, I had every underdog with the exception of the Bengals. I had Frisco. I had the Rams. I passed and I went to Texas on the Kansas City Buffalo game. I said that was a second half bet. And then I went, just play the over in the second half. But I didn't give that pick out. That was just what I did personally. But I'll tell you what, man, I don't think I've ever witnessed what I witnessed this past weekend. And you know what? It probably won't surprise me. I think it's going to continue. And that's just to show you and everybody else out there that's how much parity is in the National Football League right now.
Yep, parity is prevalent. Let's go on to the Hall of Fame. We'll get you out of here, Dennis. We'll continue on with Harry afterwards. What is your whole take on not only Big Papi David Ortiz making the Hall of Fame, but Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens once again shut out? Now they have to wait for a senior committee to get them in. Where do you stand on this situation?
So I've thought a lot about this today. I thought about how I was going to answer that question because I don't want to get myself in trouble. Okay. So we can all agree that Roger Clemens had the numbers to get into the Hall of Fame.
Correct.
We can all agree that Barry Bonds had the numbers to get into the Hall of Fame.
Correct.
We can agree that Curt Schilling had the numbers to get into the Hall of Fame.
Correct.
Why did they not get into the Hall of Fame? Because The sports writers don't like them. It is a personal thing. I'm telling you, more than any sport that I've ever seen. I mean, Clemens was notorious for being a jerk. Bond, which I love the guy because can I tell you over the years how much money he made me back in the day when he was just unbeatable. And Barry Bonds, same thing. Arrogant jerk. That was the impression. Whether they are or not, I have no idea. I don't know them personally, but that's always the impression. Curt Schilling went crazy on social media the last several years and just started throwing all this stuff out here that ticked off a lot of people. All right. So you've got three guys that are not liked by the media who make the votes for the Hall of Fame. And then you've got David Ortiz, who they love. Mm-hmm. And by the way, David Ortiz, I was at a Rays game and he was in the batting cages and I was on the field with my son. He was maybe 5 or 6. And Ortiz looked over at him. My son had a Rays jersey on, and he looked over and smiled, and he rolled him over a baseball, and gave it to him. And that's just the way that he was. Now, is he really like that in real life? I don't have any idea. But I honestly think it is just ridiculous that. And oh, by the way, I'm going to throw this one out here, and this is the one that ticks me off more than anything about all of this.
Sure.
Back in the mid-'90s, when baseball was spiraling downhill, and there was a lockout, and nobody cared about baseball. What brought baseball back?
The home run fake.
A juice baseball and steroids.
Mark McGwire,
right.
Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa.
Right.
I remember that it was, and a lot of your viewers might not even remember this. During that home run race, during that 1 year, network programming, not ESPN, yes. ABC, NBC, CBS were breaking into their regular primetime programming every single time one of these guys had an at-bat. They weren't sports shows. Breaking into whatever show was on at 8 or 9 o'clock on a weeknight to show these guys at bat. These guys who, whether or not they were juiced, which they clearly were, these guys brought interest back in baseball. So you've got to, how hypocritical is it that you're penalizing these guys for making the Hall of Fame when these same guys were revered by all of baseball, including the commissioner of baseball, for all of these home runs and bringing all this interest back to the sport. And yet when it comes to the Hall of Fame, they're ridiculed and they're banned because they were using performance-enhancing drugs. They're hypocrites. And it just bothers me to the end of the day that that's the way it played out. These guys should be in the Hall of Fame.
The one thing that I say, and I'll get back to you in a moment, Harry, is the character clause. Everybody's talking about that. They cheated with PEDs. David Ortiz, just a couple years ago, Rob Manfred came out and said, well, there may have been some false positives, whatever else. He was implicated. My thing is those type of players like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, they were already great, but they took steroids, and you're talking about breaking records that had never been broken before. You had Hank Aaron, who had to go through it, did it naturally. You have Roger Maris, who had the single season record. We all believed that Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and Bonds were on the level, and they weren't. And it's supposed to be competitive sports at the end of the day. And the whole cop-out of, well, everybody else was doing it. No, not everyone else was doing it, because a guy like Fred McGriff, who has 493 home runs, is not in the Hall of Fame. Why? Because of guys like Bonds, because of Paul Merrill, because of players in that generation. So, look, I get it. They let Ortiz in. If they're going to let Bonds and let Clemens in, let Shoeless Joe Jackson in. Let Pete Rose in, because we know that there are some steroid players in there. We also know there's racists. We know there's a lot of people that are in that Hall of Fame that not necessarily have the best character at the end of the day. And I kind of been on my soapbox about this. I feel like Bonds is a surly jerk because all he did it for was that paycheck. And all he did is that he wanted to be the main guy. He was jealous of McGwire and Sosa. So I don't know. I don't know where I lie on it. I like Ortiz. I think he did something. But I'm not sure where I lie now because of letting him into the Hall of Fame. I feel like now you have to let everybody in the Hall of Fame.
It's sports writers. I mean, the sports writers, it's a personality contest in a lot of these. You get these hardcore old school guys who say that they're purists, and yet on other times they look the other way. I mean, it's so frustrating to me. I mean, I don't know if the athletes care or not. I'm sure that I know Pete Rose clearly does. Clemens came out on Twitter and said, look, I don't care. Right. I know what I did. I know, I gave my all to the team. And of course he took the high road. That's what he had to do. But I don't know. I just think, to me, it's so hypocritical to look back. If you were alive and you were watching baseball in that time frame when McGuire and Sosa and Bonds were going, it was unlike anything I've ever seen. Again, national broadcasting programming was interrupted to show a baseball at bat 4 times in a game. Yeah. That's how, and that was after a strike, a lockout, where baseball was tanking. Nobody cared. Those home runs brought that sport back. And now you turn your back on them. It's hypocritical.
To an extent, I agree with Dennis. Those are some really great points, Dennis, that you made. You made a point about, there were certain journalists that didn't like these particular players because they were jerks. Dennis, you're absolutely correct, because I know a couple of them, and they have I'll never say their names, but they have publicly told me that. As far as Pete Rose is concerned, my stance on that. I've known Pete for over 30 years. And, he did get those hits. But you know what? For people that want to sit there and have a blind eye and say, oh, we didn't know they were doing steroids. Yes, we did. We knew that baseball was juicing. We knew they were doing steroids. But the case is this. You're still trying to hit a round object with a round object. That's the bottom line. So what if you hit it a little bit further? They're still going to hit those home runs anyway. Right. But they cheated, Dennis, Peter.
That's
they
it.
Cheated.
That's what I've always gone back to.
I know and it is hypocritical.
Right.
But it is hypocritical.
At the end of the day, and you know how they cheated? Because Barry Bonds, when he's asked about it, he'll never, ever admit to it.
And you know what? And it's not going to do him any good to admit to it, okay? And I know that firsthand. Just ask Mr. Rose, okay?
Sure.
Just give me a break. But the thing is when people say, well, we didn't know about it, that Dennis hit it on the head. It's hypocritical. Look, man, I remember when Sammy Sosa was drafted by the Rangers, and then he went to my beloved White Sox, and he was 168 pounds soaking wet. I remember when Barry Bonds was as skinny as Peter Blake, okay? Give me a break. And all of a sudden his forehead gets this big, his arms get like this. I mean, it's just not going to happen. He grew into a He-Man. They both did.
And they didn't do anything about it. They didn't do anything. And that, to me, you're right. That if they were to be consistent and say the minute that they thought something was going on, you're 100% right. You're not going to tell me that in the mid 90s, when this was rampant, that they didn't know what was going on. They knew exactly what was going on, and they didn't do anything about it because it brought fans into the stands. Right. Because everybody and their brother was talking about Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, and Sammy Sosa. Everybody, non-baseball fans, were talking about it. So what they did is they took that situation, let it happen because it brought money into the pockets of Major League Baseball. And then when everything came out the way that it did, they turned on them.
But why didn't they? But why didn't they talk about Bo Jackson? Why didn't they talk about, Frank Thomas, who's in the Hall of Fame? These guys never juiced, to the best of our knowledge. But Correct. Why didn't they talk about teams? Why didn't they talk about Albert Bell? Why didn't they talk about Barry? I mean, come on.
Let me tell you one other thing. You talked about hitting a round ball with a round bat. I get it. But, I'm going to flip sides of my argument here. I think they should be in there 100%. But there's a player, and you guys as sports guys remember this player, Brady Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
50
I'm looking at his numbers right here. I grew up an Orioles fan, so I knew the guy well. I actually covered the guy when I worked in Salisbury, Maryland. All right. Brady Anderson averaged 2 or 3 home runs a year. By the way, Big Papi only averaged about 6 or 7 home runs a year for the first 6 years he played with Minnesota. So he all of a sudden, found his power. But look at Brady Anderson. Brady Anderson, for his first 5 or 6 years, averaged 5 or 10 home runs. Then, not even that, not even 5 or 10. I'll list it. First year, 1, 0, 1, 4, 3, 2. Then in the early 90s, from 2 to 21, 16, 50, 18, 18, 24, and 19. Now,
Well,
Brady
that needle
acknowledged.
got a little better.
What's that?
That needle was a little better.
Well,
There you
he
go.
admitted it. He admitted that he juiced. So, look, there's no doubt that it did work. I mean, regardless of the people who make the argument, well, you still have to hit the ball. These are professional hitters. They're going to hit the ball in many cases anyway. But getting that extra pop, there's no doubt that it did do something. Absolutely.
Correct.
My whole argument is
They also had a juiced baseball.
yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Yes, they did. And you know what? I thoroughly, in my heart, believe, and no one will ever convince me otherwise. Pete and I had a very long conversation about this some years back.
Yes, we did.
If not Peter Blake, also with you, Peter, but Pete Rose.
Wow. Okay.
I'm telling you, we both agreed that baseball turned a blind eye to it because it was going in the shitter. Pardon my expression,
That's
but
okay.
that's the case. I mean, it was a forgotten sport, and I'm afraid, Peter, stop. And I'm afraid that if they go on strike this year, this can happen to this.
They're going to have to do it again. I mean, and if they let these guys in there, Denis, and here we're on the Sports Web here live on I Love St. Pete, the Hub. Great conversation here about the Hall of Fame. If they do let these guys in, should Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson be put in there? Because both of those players, it's all about the character clause and integrity of the game. If you do put these steroid users in there, they did cheat. We don't know about David Ortiz. We hear different things, but I definitely believe Barry Bonds did it, and I definitely believe Roger Clemens did it because they were found guilty for perjury at the time. And Bonds said, I didn't know what I was doing. He did it worse than everybody else. He actually got a laboratory to get something that nobody else was using at the time in order to make his point. If you do put all these players in your opinion, guys, does Shoeless Joe Jackson and Pete Rose belong in the Hall of Fame at that point? And should Major League Baseball look at, instead of having sports writers vote on the Hall of Fame, go a different direction?
Can I go first?
Sure.
No, and I'm just being honest. There's a difference between juicing and gambling on your team. I'm sorry, there just is. That's just my own professional opinion. Shoeless Joe Jackson deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't believe in my heart, nobody on this panel, if you added up all the years together, go back that far. But what did the guy bet? Like 5-something in the World Series?
Well, he got like $5,000. Supposedly it was $20,000 at the time. He only got $5,000, and then they went back on it. And the commissioner at the time,
what did he bet? I mean, it didn't appear that he tried to throw anything.
Right.
Every book that I've ever
he
read,
played well in the series.
Right. I think he batted like 500. I'm
along those lines, like 348. Yeah.
It was something that was ridiculous. But no, when you cheat, you cheat. That's just the bottom line. It's just, I'm sorry. That's just the way I honestly feel about it. But the people should be mad at Major League Baseball for allowing it to happen because it really got out of control. Once MLB came back, I think they should have put their clamps down a little bit and said, hey, behind the scenes, don't do it. There was a conversation with a professional athlete I was having with, and Albert Bell was being accused, and a lot of people aren't going to remember this, but he was also being accused for the same thing that Pete Rose was doing. And nobody ever talked about it. There was a little bit of noise about it, and then all of a sudden baseball just kind of brushed it up underneath the rug. But why would Major League Baseball brush that up under the rug, especially around the same time that Michael Jordan was being accused of doing the same very thing? I mean, NBA went through a hard time as well. They were going bankrupt until Magic Johnson and Larry Bird came into the league, and then Michael Jordan exploded, and all of a sudden the NBA came around it. But to answer your question, I wanted to go first on it. No, they cheat, you cheat. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't agree with it.
And my two things. One, 100 years ago and where we are now are two totally different things. Would you ever see 100 years ago or 50 years ago or 50 weeks ago a Major League Baseball and an NFL franchise with gambling commercials on their shows? Would you ever see relationships between these FanDuel, DraftKings, whatever the case may be, BetMGM, Caesars? Would you ever see sponsorships of these teams in the stadiums which they do. Capitol Stadium, Capital One Arena in DC, you can go in and bet on that game while you are there.
Yeah.
So I could care less what these guys did. That doesn't mean, and this is just my opinion, look, we look at the Hall of Presidents. Do you think a lot of those presidents have done some really terrible things, but yet they're still in the Hall of Presidents? I'd say probably so. They're in the Hall of Fame for their accomplishments on, this is just my opinion, they are in the Hall of Fame for their accomplishments on the field. I could care less what they did off the field or how they got there. They are there because of their accomplishments in that sport. And everything else about it to me is meaningless.
Man,
so
you
I
make
think
a great point.
Awesome in the sport, you should be able to be in the Hall of Fame if your numbers so justify it.
You know what? I'll change my opinion on it. You make a very compelling argument there, Dennis. You're absolutely correct.
For me, I mean, I think, again, it's always going to be a debatable thing. I think baseball, the reason why they keep this conversation going is so they're relevant, in my opinion. That's the reason why they don't put in some of these players. And think about it, guys. No Pete Rose, who is the all-time hit leader, no home run king, and no single season home run guy. And we're talking about it right now. And baseball supposedly is not relevant. It stays relevant with these conversations. Good stuff as always. Denis Phillips of ABC Action News. Go ahead and promote yourself here on the Sports Web.
You know what? If anybody's watching doesn't know who I am, then forget it. I don't care. I don't need to promote myself.
I have a question for Dennis, though.
Yes.
How's the weather going to be this week?
Oh, man. Gasparilla. Anybody who's going to Gasparilla, it is going to be frigid. And Florida frigid and frigid for the rest of the country. I get it, are two separate things. But two things. One, if you're going to Gasparilla to party, it's going to be in the 40s. It'll be sunny. So at least it'll be sunny for most of the day. But it'll be in the 40s, and wind chills will be in the 30s. And then if you're going on the flotilla, if you're going out on a boat, bring your Dramamine, because you're going to see rough conditions, winds of about 25 knots. Offshore seas 9 to 11 feet, but in the bay, obviously not like that, but it will be rough. So it is going to be a really, really cold Gasparilla Saturday. And Sunday morning, the coldest morning we've seen in 4 years. Temperatures in the mid-20s in our northern counties, lower 30s in Tampa, probably mid to upper 30s right along the coast.
Any chance
so the people like me that lived on the coast, we're going to be at least in the 30s?
Yeah, you'll be in the 30s. And no,
right,
Peter, no chance of snow. I know you were going to ask me that.
Yeah, I've never seen snow before. It hasn't snowed here since, 1989, 1977. I like to see it. Denis Phillips, thanks a lot for coming on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. All right, my friend?
Dennis, tell him that snow is overrated, please.
I kind of like it every now and again, but I wouldn't want to live in
it. I've never seen it before. How can you say it's overrated? I need to experience it. All right.
It's pretty awesome if you can visit it for a day or two, but if you have to shovel it and live in it, then it's another story.
Yep.
All right.
Dennis, I'll see you later, buddy.
See you guys.
All right, good stuff. Denis Phillips of ABC Action News. Let's go to the two-shot here. Let's go out to these comments, and then we'll get out to Curtis. Curtis, stand by. I hear you right now. Let's get out to these comments right here. The Rolex Reporter. I hate this crappy rainy weather. Good sleeping weather. Troy Polamalu, King Troy. Everybody bet money on the Rams except Peter. Not true at all.
It is true.
Oh, geez. I feel like you guys are related somehow. Curtis, hold on a minute. Corey says, I could see Jaguars signing Chris Godwin, big contract. Anita with the Fire the Cannons. Once again, thank you very much for tuning in. I always like that. Roger Shue says, Brady does, but DeGelle doesn't. Troy Polamalu, King Troy, Trojan Legend SC. Brady knows he's not done with football. He's just done with the Bucs. Okay. Evan Shear says, one of my new friends here on Facebook. Thanks a lot for tuning in on YouTube. Peter, great show as always. Tom has always said he played till 45, so I think he will keep his word, especially for his brand TB12, which promotes longevity. Agree, Harry?
That's a really good point. Very, very good point. Very astute point.
Yes.
No, he's retiring.
Okay, he's retiring. There you go. Roger Shue.
But that is a great point, though. I mean, that's a good reason. That's a good way to look at it.
He's talking about Antonio Brown. We'll get to that in a moment. I hope he does get another chance, and I hope you do this. Christopher Cole, OBJ, and Godwin would be epic plus Evans. Troy Polamalu, we don't even need Brady. Who cares? Welcome to Tampa, Rogers. Corey, Juju Smith-Schuster, free agent, absolutely. Curtis, stand by. Troy Polamalu, 49ers Super Bowl champs. Troy again. Bills didn't even get a chance to score. Christopher Cole. What about the Super Bowl 28-3 in the overtime when Brady went down, scored a touchdown on the first drive? I don't know what this is. Mom Ed. Okay. Roger Shue says Harry played the funk for Dennis. Peter played the funk. Play the funk. I'll play this. Play this funk. How about that? Let's see here.
Oh, you're just ripe, aren't you, buddy?
Ripe, all right. Roger's full of it tonight. I agree with Dennis. Alex,
I love
says,
Roger. Leave Roger alone.
Will you shut up and be quiet? Are the Rays getting a stadium in Tampa? We'll talk about that in a little bit. Alex McGriff wasn't Hall of Fame material. Let me get this straight, Roger Shue.
Oh, boy.
493 home runs, a constant.
Not 500.
Yeah. Okay. He could have stayed around and got the 500. 493. One of the best at his position. Tied with Lou Gehrig. Consistent. Off the field and off on the field, consummate professional, and he did no PEDs, and he's not Hall of Fame worthy. That's the why I want to keep guys out of the Hall of Fame, because of you. People like you say, well, Barry Bonds is a Hall of Famer because he did PEDs. It doesn't matter. Well, a guy like Fred McGriff stays out of the Hall of Fame. That's why I do that. Roger Shue, he is the home run king. Who cares? Baseball Hall of Fame means nothing to me without Pete Rose, okay? Corey says no A-Rod in the Hall of Fame. I don't think that's going to happen. Corey again. Carl Crawford or Carlos Pena should be in the Hall of Fame. Come on, Corey. No, they don't. Come on. Alan says that's the problem with baseball. They're never consistent with anything. BJ Upton, Hall of Fame. Now you're being silly. Baseball Hall of Fame is a joke, says Tom. It was minus 20 here this morning, below 20, and need $500, baby. And I got your $500 right here. All right, let's go out to the phone lines. Get this guy on. Here we go. Yeah! All right, Curtis from Newport Richie, welcome to the Evolution. You're on with yours truly, along with Harry the Greek, professional handicapper extraordinaire of 1252 Chicago Sports. What do you have to say, my friend? You okay?
Puff, puff, pass, baby.
Goodness gracious. You know, just because of that, I guess we'll just play this because we'll just chilling out with Curtis here. So hold on a sec. Where is it at? Oh, there it is.
Play the funk.
All right, there it is.
Yeah.
All right, we'll play Curtis? A little bit of funk there for Curtis. Curtis, welcome to the Evolution. What do you have to say?
So I want to say this. Right?
Yes.
I've been, you know, I'm 35 years old. Okay.
Sure.
I've been playing and watching football since I was probably 7, 8 years old. Okay.
What happened to the funk?
No more funk. Go ahead, Curtis. I can't take it.
I don't know about baseball like you guys. I'm a Red Sox fan. Pete, you know that.
Sure.
I love David Ortiz. I hate Manny Ramirez.
You know what? Hold on a minute. I got a special treat for you. You ready? We interviewed David Ortiz, one of my colleagues there, Mr. Ray Kennedy. Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy, and this is what Ortiz had to say about Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for his Super Bowl prediction. You guys ready for this? All right, here we go.
To Boston, you know how great fans they are and how passionate. Does it surprise you how they got behind Tom Brady this year? And even though there'll always be true and blue Boston fans, Patriots, and Red Sox, how they're actually supporting Tom and wishing for him to continue being the GOAT that he is?
Without a doubt, man. He's the GOAT, and I'm going to be cheering for him tomorrow. And it's so crazy the way everything has been lining up for a special person like him. And number 12, go and get it tomorrow, dog.
All right, so number 12 did get it. Welcome back to the Evolution, of course. So there you go, Curtis. Big Papi Ortiz with the interview, also in the Hall of Fame. Your thoughts?
Well, he deserved it. And listen, when you think about Boston sports over the last 20-some-odd years,
mm-hmm.
I mean, him and Brady are on the Mount Rushmore over the last 20 years.
I agree. I agree.
Those two guys, and then you can put, I mean, you could put Vinatieri if you want to.
Larry Bird, I think you put in there.
Yeah, you can put Larry Bird. I mean, here's the thing. I watch baseball, and these guys go out there and risk it all every day. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because let me tell you something. I've never been hit by a 90-mile-per-hour fastball, but I'm
It
gonna
hurts.
can't be fun. It can't be fun. And these guys go out there and they play 162 games a year, and they play 10, 15-year careers. Listen, I understand. I understand, the whole steroids and cheating. I'm sorry, I'm gonna just say this. I think it's all bullshit. Okay.
Well,
you have to do. Listen, I feel like this.
Curtis, here's the thing. If they are Hall of Fame players, and I agree with you, Bonds and Clemens before that were Hall of Fame players, then what's the need to take steroids? It's easy. It's an easy response. Of course, for recovery time, guys that are 33, 34 years old don't get better without PEDs. And then on top of it, people saying, well, Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, if they couldn't play baseball, that's very true. They couldn't. But if a player like Bonds, who already has great hand and eye coordination, adds steroids to that, he automatically gets better. So this whole thing of, well, everybody was doing it, and this and that, another thing, they cheated. He made a decision. Go ahead.
But Pete, here's the thing. And
Yes.
I'm sorry, Harry, I don't want to cut you off, but Pete, here's the thing. What else do steroids do? Steroids helps you get healthy when your body won't allow you to get healthy.
And I agree with you on that. If it were legalized and if everybody was able to do it, the problem is we're talking about competitive sports. And if everybody's on that competitive plane, if you will, and not everybody's on that, then it's one thing. But not everybody was doing the same thing, especially Bonds, who had his own freaking laboratory.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I just go ahead, Harry. Go ahead, brother.
No, man. Go ahead.
No, to me, I understand what you guys are saying. To me, it's just, I'm kind of like
torn.
I'm kind of neutral. Like,
yeah,
I understand. Like, having steroids, helps you get bigger or stronger or whatever. But like, also at the same time, the world we live in nowadays, the games have to be exciting. Nobody wants to see anything that's not exciting.
Well, you don't want to see a 1-0 pitcher duel? I mean, you don't want to see that?
No. Well, listen, here's the thing.
Right.
If we do, and the pitcher gets up to 100 pitches by the 6th inning, he's coming out anyway.
Well, I know. I mean, and is that because of injury? Is that because the game has changed? Is that because of steroids themselves? I don't know what it is. I hate it. I hate it.
I'll use football as an example.
Right.
The Rams-Patriots Super Bowl 2-3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God! I went to sleep.
Yeah, 13-3.
I went to sleep.
Horrible.
I've never gone to sleep during a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Ever. It's terrible. And the problem is the world we live in nowadays is different than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Sure.
Okay. People were hardcore fans. They didn't give a damn. We're going to sit here. We're going to watch this game. I don't care if it's 0-0 going into the 15th inning. But nowadays, the problem is people's attention span is so short.
Yep.
They're like, oh God, what else is on?
Yeah.
And listen, those guys played. They cheated. I mean, I love Pete Rose. I agree. He's probably one of the greatest hitters ever. And does it suck that he's not going to get in? Of course it does. Is Barry Bonds suck that he's not going to get in? Of course it does. But I mean, I don't know. I think some of those media guys are just. I think they need to have different people voting on it sometimes.
Harry, do you agree with that? I mean, they need different people that are voting on this.
Where are you going to find them? You're not going to have a basic fan doing it, and you're not going to. There's nobody else you're going to have other than the sports writers. Stand by,
Curtis. Hold on a sec. Yes, welcome to the Sports Web. We got Curtis on the line. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Not Curtis.
Oh, no, not Curtis. I got Curtis on the line. What's your name? I'm going to put you on hold, and then we're going to finish up with Curtis, okay?
All right, pal.
All right, stand by. So go ahead, Curtis. I'm sorry. Or go ahead, Harry.
I would love to see guys like you and Harry do it. I don't need guys on ESPN.
Well, if you want me to do it, I'm telling you right now. I mean, Ortiz would have been one thing because the more I do research on it, the more it seems like he didn't really do anything. But if you would want me to vote on this, Bonds, Clemens, Sosa are not getting it. And look,
no, they're cheated. They cheated.
They cheated.
The thing about it is, Harry. I mean, the thing about it, Pete and Harry, is if you guys are genuine sports lovers, genuine. And I'm not saying that those guys on ESPN aren't.
Curtis, I am a genuine sports lover, and that's why when I appreciate a Willie Mays, I appreciate a Hank Aaron, I appreciate a Mickey Mantle and a Roger Maris. I don't appreciate these guys. I think some of these guys are punks. I think they made a decision for themselves to basically go in for business for themselves to make money. It's not about the game. It's not about the records. But at the end of the day, baseball is different from football and every other sport because the lifeblood of the sport are the numbers. And when you have a record for 40 to 50 years that stands pat, and then you have Mark McGwire breaks it, Roger Maris's family is there, and then a couple years later, a punk like Barry Bonds, who I don't care is the home run king. He's the biggest effing cheater of all time. I can't stand him.
But Pete, that's like people say the same thing about Belichick.
But here's the thing. You're right about that. But
you're
right.
Defense,
not a fair comparison.
You're 100% correct about Bonds.
Right.
You're correct about McGuire, Clemens.
Right.
So,
not a fair comparison, guys.
Well, Harry, I'll tell you this right now. He does have a point, and this is why he has a point. A lot of people.
How? He didn't play the game.
He didn't play the game, but he did cheat, and there are a lot of things.
Big difference.
But Harry, cheating is cheating, no matter how you look at it.
Nope.
Well, here's the thing, Harry and Curtis, and I'll say this. The thing about steroids for me, that's the problem, is that it's actually worse, in my opinion, than gambling. Because basically you're enhancing your body and you're corrupting the numbers that baseball's tradition stands on. So, yeah, I'm a sports fan, but at the end of the day, I don't know what the hell I watched. Did I watch professional wrestling or did I watch baseball? I didn't watch baseball. I watched a bunch of juiced up athletes who are selfish, who decided to make a selfish decision for themselves to make more money. A guy that's 33, 34, 35, 36 years old doesn't hit 40 to 50 home runs almost every year. It doesn't happen unless you're on something. It doesn't.
I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
But the problem with people in this world is everybody doesn't look at it the way we look at it.
I agree. And that's the beautiful thing about sports at the end of the day. I'm
sorry, Harry. Go ahead, brother. I'm
sorry. No, I'm good.
Harry, go ahead, man. What do you have to say?
Peter, I really don't have anything to say. I'm trying to get a special guest to come on there. You're going to need to clear one of the lines. Do not clear Curtis, but clear the second call.
Okay. All right.
Do not clear Curtis.
Let me say this. Let me say this. That's like, okay, I love all sports. I love golf. I love NASCAR.
Sure.
I love it all.
Sure.
Because I love the competitiveness. That's what I love. I do. And that's like, what is the guy that was the defensive coordinator for the Saints?
Dennis Allen. Or no, Greg Williams. Greg Williams. Yes.
I think he should have never been in the NFL again.
Probably shouldn't have been. And Sean Payton the same way. I mean, he was the coach under the Bounty Gate, and him walking away right now is the greatest thing for Bucs fans out there. But he's a guy that is a silly jerk.
Jeff Fisher has been blacklisted. But I tell you what, I would take Jeff Fisher any day over Greg Williams for the crap that he pulled.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just how I feel about it. Like, it's cheat. Listen, cheating is cheating. I understand it. But see, the problem is the owners don't care because they're still lining their pockets.
Yep.
It's bringing fans to the stadium. We're selling jerseys. We're selling baseballs. We're selling bats. We're selling cars. The owners don't give a damn. It's the legacy of the players.
Right. And here's the thing. The legacy is to allow Bud Selig again, who basically turned and coughed and knew everything what was going on at the time with steroids in baseball. So he's in the Hall of Fame. I don't understand. He's probably the worst, single-handedly, the worst commissioner in all professional sports, period, by far.
Listen, he didn't care because guess what? Like I said,
made him money.
He was lying in his pocket.
Sure.
A lot of money.
A lot of money. Whole lot of money.
When people line their pockets, they look the other way.
So
and honestly, like I said, this is my point about people like you and Harry, being able to vote. You guys aren't going. I mean, I believe that you guys have the integrity not to somebody be like, hey, I'm going to give you $100,000. Don't vote for this guy in the Hall of Fame. You'd be like, man, no.
I don't think that's actually happening, though. I honestly think.
No. I didn't say that it did. But if there was a possibility, people listen, Harry, you and Peter, I respect you guys. I love you guys. But you know this, the world that we live in is kind of jacked up. I ain't gonna use the fat Mike F-bomb. I want to. Not.
Do me a favor, put me in the back room for a minute.
Yeah. I'll put you in the back room. There you go. Curtis, go ahead and finish up here. Go ahead.
Listen, like I said, you guys are 100% right.
Okay.
Cheating is cheating.
Okay.
They don't deserve to be there. I mean, no matter, and like you said, I agree. I feel like it should be taken out the record books.
Sure.
I really do. Because, when you look it up online or wherever you look it up, this is going to be who you see. And then it's going to be that asterisk next to their name or whatever it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I'm kind of tired of this conversation because every year the Hall of Fame comes up.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I think we should just, is this their last year being eligible?
Yeah, this is the last year until the Veterans Committee. They
got an antibiotic for that. Oh,
Yeah,
committee. Never mind. I thought you said chlamydia.
Just like viral there. Yeah, good stuff.
Can I tell a kind of a racy joke?
Sure,
not
go for it.
racist joke, but kind of a racy joke.
I love it.
Did you know that if a deaf girl is giving you a hand job, it's actually considered oral?
Jesus, you know what? All right,
Just
Curtis.
had to go there.
Will you shut up and be quiet?
This is why this should be the greatest show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Listen, dude, Fat Mike had me on the floor in tears Monday night.
I'm telling you.
You should have caught Friday night show.
Oh, Friday night show was even. You have to catch the over under on 1252 Chicago Sports at 9:00. So we're about to get.
That was off the chain.
We got one of the best handicappers on right now. We're about to get one of the worst handicappers on after we take this other call. Mark Mancini, the madman. He's even admitted to that. Yes.
Hey, listen, I love you guys.
Love you too, brother.
I'll wait up on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays to watch you guys.
You're the man.
Listen, let me tell you something. It's good to have somebody else's opinion that it's not complete utter bullshit. Like
I agree.
You're not sucking on the power teat. You know what I'm saying?
Nope.
Like you tell it how it is, and that's what it is. And if people don't like it, then screw them.
That's it. I mean, you can comment on it, you can debate me on it, you can text on it, but at the end of the night, we're all walking away as friends, and hopefully you come back and see me. Good stuff as always, Curtis. Let me give you the Byron Leftwich.
How about them Bucks, baby?
And by the way, if he does get that coaching job with the Jacksonville Jaguars, we're still gonna play that sound effect. Thanks a lot for your call here. Definitely
They'll get better.
All right.
Yeah, hopefully they will get better. Yeah,
the Bucks will get better. They get rid of Byron.
Well, BA may be calling the plays, and then on top of it, he may let Tom Brady call the plays, like a lot of fans already think already. Good stuff, Curtis. Let me go out to the other phone line here. Thanks a lot for the call. Let's go out. Then we'll get Mark Mancini. We're running a little bit late, but that's okay, Mark. Just stand by here. Welcome to the Evolution Yard with yours truly, along with Harry, the Greek professional handicapper extraordinaire. What do you have to say? Hello?
Hey, Pete.
Hey, what's going on, buddy? What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Joe. Your pal Maytag.
Hey, Joe, what's going on? Welcome to the Sports Web here live on I Love St. Pete. And, of course, the hub, we call it the Sports Hub when we're on the Sports Web. I know that you want to talk about David Ortiz and, of course, the Hall of Fame. What are your thoughts?
My childhood kid is screaming happiness.
Okay.
That's pretty much what's going on. In my opinion, I've never seen a clutch postseason hitter in my entire life. I am so glad that he's the first DH ever to make the Hall of Fame, and there's nobody more deserving than him.
Okay. You have any problem with people leaving out Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens?
Absolutely not, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because
what's the difference? Because people will say David Ortiz was implicated in the PED mess. He actually took some PEDs, although there's no proof. I guess he did fail a test or didn't fail it. I don't know. Give me your thoughts on Bonds and Clemens.
I will give you your thoughts on Barry Bonds now. If you look at Barry Bonds in Pittsburgh, Barry Bonds in San Francisco, they were two different people.
Correct.
I mean, Barry Bonds in Pittsburgh looked like a base stealing, fast kid like his dad. Barry Bonds in San Francisco looked like a guy with no neck who was jacked.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Clearly, that man used PEDs. He lied about it left and right. Clemens, same way. Multiple people confirmed between trainers, between players, like he was using PEDs. They were liars. They have no place in the Hall of Fame. Now, Poppy, I will say, is different because, as you said, Pete, there was no proof at all that what he actually used was illegal by MLB rules. He was tested. He was implicated, but I think Bud Selig was the commissioner during that time, and Bud Selig could not find any kind of evidence that he used illegal substances. So I think you got to give Poppy the benefit of the doubt because even though he was implicated, there's no proof that he actually failed the test.
And that is my biggest problem with letting some of these guys in there, because if you do, automatically people say, well, it's the steroid era. Well, not everybody was doing steroids. Frank Thomas wasn't doing steroids.
Nope.
Bo Jackson, Fred McGriff, who's not in the Hall of Fame, who should be. Ken Griffey
Did you know there were speculations that over 25% of the players that were on active rosters were using steroids and PEDs back in the 90s? And get this, the number was even greater in the minors.
Wow. It's amazing to me. But you know what? Again, baseball turned a blind eye. But again, if we're talking about competitive sports, and we're about to talk with the madman, Mark Mancini, about, sports entertainment, which would be wrestling, it's one thing. If you want to make it sports entertainment, then say it's sports entertainment, steroid all up. You guys get all steroid up, get huge, go out like Lou Ferrigno or Arnold Schwarzenegger, go out there, lower the pitching mound and
put me in the back.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to put you in the back room. There we go. Go ahead and finish up here, Joe. We're going to go out to Mark Mancini. You can use a second call if you want to, but go ahead, finish up your point.
Well, I will say this. Rob Manfred is ruining baseball, by the way.
Okay.
Said right here, right now.
Why do you say that?
Baseball has been a very successful sport for how many years, Pete? 200 plus years.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
I understand that baseball needs to evolve. It's going to evolve and change, but don't completely ruin the game while also letting it evolve. Honestly, Manfred has no business being this commissioner. He's a businessman, first off. He has no connections with baseball outside of that. I don't know how this man even got in baseball, but as an umpire, I'm offended. I am straight up offended that he wants to use almost like these robot umpires coming up. They're going to have little wires in their ears in 2022. A computer telling somebody, an umpire, what's a ball or a strike.
Yeah.
I've done this 15 years, Pete.
Yeah.
15 years. Are you saying to me that I can't tell whether a ball's a strike or not?
Well, the thing is, we're going back to Harry here. What's going on, Harry?
You got a phone call coming in right now.
Okay, we got a phone call coming in. I tell you what, Joe, I want you to call back because the phone call we got coming in is pretty special. Mark Mancini, stand by here. Joe, call me back if I think this is who this is. Welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
David Shuster in Chicago.
David Shuster from Chicago. All right, welcome to the evolution. Where do you lie on this situation with Big Papi getting in, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens not getting in?
Well, it's hypocritical, of course. There's still some holdouts. I mean, that's really the bottom line here. There are holdouts that still would not vote for either of those two guys, meaning Bonds and Clemens. But obviously that, wilted over the years, but it didn't wilt enough to get them to the 75%. And now their 10 years is over. Listen, they will get into the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, they're going to have to get in through the back door, if you will, through the Veterans Committee, as will a lot of other guys ultimately. But even I changed my mind over this over the years. I mean,
so did I.
I was pretty staunch on this, saying, they were cheaters, yada, yada, yada. But honestly, so many guys have been cheaters over the years, including Big Papi. David Ortiz cheated too. And so then, there was just some people who just said, I've never voted for them. And that's why they didn't get in this way, but they will ultimately get into the Hall of Fame. There's no question.
David, do you feel like if those guys do get into the Hall of Fame eventually, that baseball should consider not only doing away with writers voting on this, but also doing away with the character clause, because people will scream and say Pete Rose should be in all-time hitter, what he did on the field, and also Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, I've been advocating Pete Rose to be in the Hall of Fame from the moment he stopped playing, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, I know what he did. He cheated, or excuse me, he bet on baseball. He probably even bet against his own team. Okay, fine. Then just put on his plaque, as they should. He's a scumbag. This is what he did.
He's right. I mean, he's right. He didn't do it during his career, only during his managerial career. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. However, he's a Hall of Fame. If ever I saw, and I covered baseball and I still do, for years and years and years and years and years. If ever I saw a Hall of Fame player, Pete Rose was it. I mean, for me, yeah, numbers of course mean a lot. That goes without saying. But more than anything else, it's an eye test. And when I saw and I dealt with Pete, I hate to use that word, but when I dealt with Pete Rose, he was a Hall of Fame player right in front of my eyes. So yes, he should be in the Hall of Fame, but people should know his whole story. But bottom line, Hall of Fame player, no question about it.
Absolutely. And for those that are out there right now listening and wondering who David Shuster is a legend in the Chicago market. He was a great broadcaster on sports radio. He's a great writer, and he's also a pretty good friend. And I'll tell you what, he's very, very knowledgeable. You ever want to play stump a guy and try to beat him on some boxing knowledge or even basketball knowledge? Good luck, because you'll be there all day long. How you doing, David?
I'm doing fine. Just finished watching a couple of games here. Hey, Chicago 2 for 2 tonight. How about that? NBA, yeah, the Bulls held off Toronto and the Blackhawks. I love these original 6 matchups in hockey. Just gets my juices flowing, even though the Hawks and the Red Wings both stink. But it was an exciting game. The Hawks winning 8-5. So yeah, it was a fun night.
I had a question for David. David, everybody knew when Sammy Sosa, and there was speculations with Sosa, McGuire, and Bonds, and Clemens, and Schilling, and then Rafael Palmeiro, and then people kept coming out of the woodwork. But why weren't the allegations ever for a Bo Jackson or a Frank Thomas or players like that? Do you have any insight on that, especially being up in Chicago?
That's a good question, Harry. And I mean, Frank Thomas always said that he was clean. I don't know if he was or he wasn't. I didn't spend 24/7 with him, so I can't vouch. I mean, both him and Ryan Sandberg, another Chicago player who got into the Hall of Fame, they've preached that they were squeaky clean. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I have no idea, honestly. But again, I mean, it's pretty obvious Bonds and Clemens did what they did. However, they were Hall of Fame players even before they did what they did, whether it was human growth hormone or steroids. I mean, Barry Bonds was a Hall of Fame player before he started hitting home runs like Paul Bunyan. There's no question about it. He did everything on a baseball field. The only thing that it was, they always talk about 5'2" player. The only thing that he was probably 4.5 at, I mean, he didn't have a strong arm. That's why they played him in left field. But I mean, the man could hit. He could hit for power, even to a lesser degree before the Paul Bunyan phase kicked in. Great fielder, ran the bases, smart baseball player, great genes from his father alone. And Clemens won 4 Cy Youngs even before he probably started doing human growth hormones. So to me, they were both Hall of Fame players. Like I said, initially, I was pretty PO'd against both of them, but I've softened over the years, and they're Hall of Fame players. There's just no question about it.
For a player like I'm sorry, Harry, for a player like a Fred McGriff, who has 493 home runs, who's been consistent, who's had a lot of success in Major League Baseball, why does he get overlooked? I always say, he gets overlooked for guys like Bonds and that generation, and those numbers are inflated. Is that fair to a player like McGriff, who, only 7 home runs away, David, from 500?
Well, and there's guys with less than 500 home runs that are in the Hall of Fame. I guess it depends on the position that you play. I mean, McGriff was basically a first baseman, played some outfield also. So I don't know. I mean, 7 home runs, does it really make that big a damn bit of difference?
Does he belong in the Hall of Fame, in your opinion?
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Actually. I mean, and the Hall of Fame has, again, when I was growing up, and I'm going pretty far back, but when I was growing up, I mean, you really had to be like in an upper stratosphere of, you had to be a Mantle or a Mays or a Marichal or a Koufax, guys like that. It's probably loosened up, lessened even a little bit. So, but from McGriff, from the era that he played, going through today rather, I mean, he's a Hall of Fame player. Yeah, so yes, long-winded answer to your question. Yes, he's a Hall of Famer in my eyes.
Go ahead, Harry.
David, I know you know journalists that are able and capable of that actually vote for players to be in the Hall of Fame. Would you say, without disclosing who it is, that they probably don't vote for them like a Sammy Sosa or a Barry Bonds because
Oh, sure.
they were just being assholes on the field, or they just didn't give good interviews? Do you think it was something personal, or do you think it was strictly because they were cheating?
No, I think it's a combination of both. Maybe the
Okay.
cheat, outrides the other one. But yeah, I mean, listen, I guess people are, have human nature about them. Listen, I got stiffed by quite a few ball players over the years. However, if they were a Hall of Fame player and I had a Hall of Fame vote, which I'd never have had, I'd vote him into the Hall of Fame. I mean, there's a lot of players who I wouldn't have a beer with, but if they were a Hall of Fame player, fine, get in the Hall of Fame, and I'll still not have that beer with you. So yes, there are some people, and I know that for fact, and I'm not going to name names. There are some people who just basically say, well, he was a blankety blankety blank, and I'd swear, but I don't even know if we could do that here.
Yes, you can.
Yes, there are some people who will take that into account and say, I'm never voting for them, whether it's for MVP award or Cy Young or Hall of Fame. There's no question about it.
Good stuff, man. Thanks a lot for your time. You're always welcome on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. I mean, I respect your work. You're a legend in Chicago sports. I always tell Harry, he always cringes. I grew up as a Cubs fan, so I remember your work. I remember what you did in the great Chicago area. And, of course, we're on 1252 Chicago Sports, the over-under on Friday night. So definitely don't be a stranger here on the Sports Web, my friend, all right?
Call me anytime, guys. Have a great evening.
All right,
Hey,
there you go. The great
thank you, David. Appreciate you calling in.
Legend in Chicago media. Let me go out to this man right here. I don't have any intro for him, but he says he's the worst handicapper of all time. I got one of the best handicappers of all time, Harry the Greek, professional handicapper extraordinaire. Meet the madman himself, Mr. Mark Mancini. Welcome to the Evolution, my friend. How you doing tonight?
I'm bringing the convoy from Pittsburgh into Tampa, baby. Watch out for those Penguins, first of all. Second of all, there's an old Italian saying, the fish stinks from the head up. Baseball likes it both ways, my friends. When you look at Bud Selig, he was driving the car when the people went in and robbed the bank, and then he threw everybody under the bus. This country's built on second chances. When we look at Barry Bonds, when we look at the home run king, when we look at Roger Clemens, the Cy Young 7, when we look at Pete Rose, the all-time hits leader, this is crazy not to have him in the Hall. We got a lot of guys that belong in the Hall that shouldn't be in the Hall, and we got other guys that are trying to get in the Hall. You tell me how Dave Parker, who had the second best arm in Pittsburgh besides Roberto Clemente, can't get himself in the Hall of Fame.
I don't understand it at all. Harry, I know you got to get out of here, so say hello to Mark Mancini. He says he's the worst handicapper of all time. Here is one of the best, and Harry the Greek. You guys introduce each other.
Mark, how you doing, sir? Love watching your show. Thank you for coming on Peter's on the Sports Web.
I
the
love it.
Evolution
You
of Sports
guys,
Talk
man, are the
Television.
best. You showed it sweeping the country. The only time we'll be enemies is when the Pens and Lightning get it going for the Cup.
No, you mean the Pens and the Blackhawks? That's when we have problems.
Easy. Now, the Blackhawks, it got a couple years to go there. I'll tell you what, Harry, we'll get you out of here on this. Go ahead and promote yourself, my friend, here on the Sports Web.
Definitely appreciate you having me on. Thanks for everybody making the comments. You can catch me on Monday and Wednesday nights right here on the Sports Web and right through the Hub and I Love St. Pete. And on Friday nights, where my show is the Over Under, I'm your host, Harry the Greek, with my co-host, Mr. Peter Blake, 9 p.m. Friday Eastern, 8 p.m. Central for everybody that's out there in the Midwest. And Peter, as I always say, keep your bets low and your returns high. Have a good night.
All right, there you go. Harry the Greek, professional handicapper extraordinaire, 1252 Chicago Sports. We'll see you on Friday night, my friend. All right?
See you,
Nice meeting you, brother.
You as well, sir.
There you go. Good stuff there. Let's go out to the madman, Mark Mancini of Mancini Media, XM Sirius Radio, former XPW announcer. And let's talk about your thoughts on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really quick in the LA Rams.
I'll tell you one thing. I must have been the only guy in an LA a bar that was singing Fire McVay, Fire McVay. Because I tell you one thing, that guy should have got on that bus and adjusted the mirrors and got the hell to the airport. What a lucky guy. If this thing went to overtime, the Bucs would have got him.
Well, and I agree with you on that. And what an amazing comeback by Tom Brady in that offense. But at the end of the day, give credit to where credit is due. I think McVay definitely outcoached BA and, of course, Todd Bowles. Stafford over 300 passing yards. And once again, the Buccaneer killer, Cooper Kupp, and then the field goal. Now they face the San Francisco 49ers. There's been talk out there. You're in the LA area of limiting tickets from 49er fans. How is that working out? Do you think that the Ram fans will pack that stadium on Sunday?
Well, what's happening is when you haven't had football in decades here, people went to other organizations to, adopt, and one of them was the 49ers. And when you look at the 49ers, let me tell you, this is a team that's coming in hot. They play smash mouth. They'll bang you around. They'll run the ball down your throat. And they beat the Rams 6 straight times. So there's another hurdle for the Rams to get over. I don't think they're going to get over this because I think the 49ers are playing on house money. They'll have the fan support here. And I don't understand the insecurity. The Rams saying we don't want to sell tickets. The players' wives are buying up tickets. This is complete ludicrous. It's America. You should be able to buy tickets for anything you want.
Well, I kind of get that because the Lightning here for some years, they couldn't necessarily draw their fans. They had Blackhawk fans and, of course, Boston. So they kind of limited to that thing when it came to the postseason. I understand that. And you look back a couple weeks ago at that matchup, there were more 49er fans than Ram fans. So it'll be interesting to see. Who do you like in this matchup? My co-host there, Harry, the Greek professional handicapper extraordinaire, sees the Rams as what the Bucs were last year. They're about to make a big run. Do you see the same thing? Do you think they can become the second team in NFL history to win a Super Bowl in their house?
I don't think so. I went 2-2. I took the Saturday games. I won those. I lost the Sunday games. But you know what? When I look at this Ram team, Stafford's going to step up again. And I don't know if he has the pressures on the Rams in their own backyard. So the only thing I have the problem with the selling tickets to your own fans is you do a better marketing job. I mean, you're not going to outdraw the Cowboy fans, the Packer fans, the Steeler fans, some of these fans that are coming in across the board, the Celtics, the Lakers, when they come in your backyard, or the Penguins, Blackhawks, and all these other teams. So do something, market it, put a product on the field. And I don't think the Rams are that good. 71 years, they haven't done nothing in L.A. as far as winning a title. I think this trend's going to continue.
All right, there you go. Of course, he does say he is the worst handicapper of all time. So take it with a grain of salt. One former XPW announcer, XM Sirius host, and of course, Mancini Media. Great show. Also, what is it called? Liberty Bell Smack. I was on that.
Yeah, you were on that puppy, man.
Man, that was so much fun. Mark Mancini here on the Sports Web. Let's talk about the other matchup. In fact, let's go back to Sunday's game with the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, offensive galore there with two young quarterbacks. Did you want to see the Buffalo Bills actually get the ball in overtime to see what Allen and that offense could do? Or do you like the NFL rule? You win a coin toss and then basically you have the advantage.
No, I don't like that, the thing. But I will tell you this: the Bills screwed up. They should have kicked that squib kick on that. Then let's see what they were going to do with 13 seconds going off that clock. That was their mistake. You don't want to kick it into the end zone and take it at the 25.
Who do you like in that matchup between Kansas City and Cincinnati? Cincinnati, the big-time story. They're trying to get back to the Super Bowl. In fact, the last time they were in the Super Bowl, I believe, was 1988. Versus the San Francisco 49ers. So you pick the 49ers. Could we see a duplication, if you will, of the Cincinnati Bengals getting over the top with Joe Burrow? Could that happen? Or do you like
things running threes, baby? Little old school action. Retro feel, man. Here we go. Burrow against Garoppolo. Chase is amazing. And just look at the running game of the 40. It's going to be amazing. I like these two teams in the Super Bowl. I think we've seen a lot of the Chiefs and I don't think the Rams got enough to get there. I really don't. I think if you can run the ball down their throat like the 49ers can, this is going to be an interesting game. I like the 49ers by 7.
All right, 49ers by 7, and you like Kansas City or Cincinnati in the other game?
Cincinnati, I like.
Wow.
The points in Cincinnati.
All right, the points in Cincinnati. There you go, Mark Mancini. Let's get to WWE turnbuckle talk. I'll call it here on the Sports Web, the madman himself. Of course, the Royal Rumble coming up on Saturday night. Thank you very much. That's great. But was that the worst Raw you've seen for a buildup? I mean, really, nothing happened. I mean, they had a weigh-in with Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. I mean, there's just no buildup at all. What is WWE doing at this point?
Well, they're trying to make somebody a face and somebody a heel, or both people a face. And when I look at both these guys, I mean, at least Lashley can talk. Lesnar has a problem talking, no mic skills. But I'll tell you one thing. The one thing I'm looking forward is this Rollins and Reigns. Boy, this is going to be interesting. I could see Becky Lynch getting involved in this one.
Really? Why do you say that for?
I don't know. Roman Reigns made a comment one time about her, and it's resurfaced quite a few times. So I could see this thing playing out, but I'd like to see Rollins take this belt, man. I really would.
Well, and I'm not sure if they're going to give the belt to Rollins because, of course, they want to keep the belt on Reigns at the end of the day. I mean, that's been the storyline. Of course, I still think Reigns and Lesnar are going to somehow meet up in WrestleMania. Maybe they unify the title. Do you think that's certainly a possibility in Dallas?
That could be interesting, but the big talk out here is Reigns will be going against The Rock, and I don't know what that's going to be for WrestleMania next year out here in Los Angeles. So That's going to be an interesting one, but he's held the belt. He's been the longest reigning champ. So I don't know if you could take it away from him for a little bit and give it back to him, but I got my money on Rollins.
All right. Money on Rollins. Okay. We'll see what happens there. What do you make of this other tag team, couple wrestling match between Edge and Beth Phoenix, his real wife, and then, of course, you've got Miz and his wife, Maurice. What do you make of that? Is there excitement there for you? How do you think that's going to turn out?
I think Mars is going to turn on Miz here and leave him in the ring after he gets pinned. I think that's what it is. If you're going to bring Beth Phoenix back in Edge, you're going to get a win there. You can see the way this thing is playing out. But I think Marcy will leave Miz laying out in the ring and walk away from him. And that'll be a storyline.
What do you make of Dominic Mysterio and his father, Rey Mysterio? Rey showing, the old man still got some moves, putting Dominic over. Is this going to lead to some type of friction between both of these, father versus son? I mean, we kind of saw that in the late 90s, if you will, early 2000s with David Flair and Ric Flair, which, David is nothing like Rick. Could they explore that again, you think, in WWE?
Yeah, you don't know where they're going to go with it. Maybe, who knows with Austin Theory coming in and driving a wedge with them. This could be another interesting thing. Yeah, but I've been looking at this for quite a while now with the Mysterios, and I'm surprised it's gone on so long. You look at things and you think, okay, this thing should be brought up to the forefront. We talked about last week about the Bray Wyatt, why they didn't hook him up with The Undertaker. Everybody thought that would have been a good thing, but this Mysterio thing's been going on off and on for quite a while. It's time to break them up, go against each other, or get another guy to take one side and maybe become a heel with them.
Are you surprised that they didn't have the titles more if they're trying to build up Dominic? Because essentially Ray's already got his name. He's already over with the crowd. Why haven't they done more with the Mysterios, making them tag team champions or putting Dominic over?
Well, I think Dominic might not be ready. That's the only thing. I mean, I don't think his wrestling skills are as good as his dad, but, time will tell. But that's where the problem lies. They're not giving him the push. WWE doesn't give big pushes to some of these guys, and he's been one guy that's been held back. You saw how many guys were released in WWE, and now there's talk. Maybe we heard on SmackDown, is John Moxley coming back? Dean Ambrose.
Well, I mean, and of course, he made an appearance on AEW, and Bubba Ray Dudley was critical of his promo with him coming back. Did you have any problem with his promo on AEW? Basically bringing up some of the events that he's gone through with, with getting help?
No, I think that he's reaching out. I don't have no problem with that. And, that's what life's all about. Reach out and, and when you look at it, yeah, I've always liked Dean Ambrose. I really have. And, just the way everything transpired over the last few years of great people being let go in WWE just doesn't make sense. I know they tried to bring back the Iconics for Royal Rumble. And they flat out turned them down.
Right. Well, they're with Impact
So,
Wrestling now.
you know,
I mean,
I think the WWE didn't burn a bridge; they blew up the bridge. And when you blow up the bridge, it's tough to go back over it.
yeah. Nick Khan was talking about, them trying to, figure out their financial situation, possibly selling. I don't know what to make of the whole situation. I feel like once again, they dropped the ball with not having Triple H in charge of it. At least, Triple H, what he did with NXT, they've completely ruined that brand of NXT. Is it watchable for you? Have you watched any of NXT?
Oh God, it's tough to watch.
I mean,
It
Braun
really is tough to
Breaker,
watch.
I mean, that's Rick Steiner's father, and even he admitted, I believe it's Rick Steiner, right? It's not Scott. Scott is the uncle, but Rick is. But he even admitted that his father hasn't watched them besides when he won the NXT title. I mean, NXT, how bad is it right now?
Oh, it's terrible, man. And the problem is Vince McMahon. I mean,
Right.
he wants complete control. And, this guy's getting up there in age, and he figures he's going to take the money to the grave with him. You have good people in charge. You should keep those people in charge running it. Triple H is great running it. And it's unfortunate, what's happening now with the whole transformation. They got to do something with this SmackDown and Raw. They got to keep these guys separate. You can't have people coming from one to the other. You got to build it solid.
You do. And, to me, we're all with Mark Mancini, former XPW announcer here on The Evolution. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Look, I have nothing but respect for Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon and what they've done for the business, but I feel like you've got to get some new young blood when it comes to writing and understanding the pulse of the crowd. And I really don't think WWE or NXT understands that right now. They got some great young talent, but they're just not pushing them correctly and not making it happen. Now, Royal Rumble is probably one of my favorite pay-per-views. I want to go through this list here from CBSSports.com. Top 5 surprise appearances in Royal Rumble history. All right, let's start off with number 5. Christian for the 2021. How surprised were you with that? Of course, Edge coming back in 2020, but Christian 2021, and then all of a sudden going to AEW. How surprised were you with Christian? What kind of impact? Is Christian underrated in your opinion as a wrestler? Does he not get over with the crowd, or is he too over with the crowd? I mean, what do you make of his career in general?
He's kind of in the middle of the pack. You never know what you're going to get with him with the crowd. And I think some of these guys are, when you're in the middle of the pack, you got to become an Austin Theory type where McMahon can push you, or, one of those guys. Some of these guys need mic skills. When I look at mic skills, Reigns never had the mic skills, but he learned them. You looked at Rollins, you looked at Owens, great mic skills. The Rock, Stone Cold, and Reigns has really pushed himself to be up in that echelon of talents. But I think the big surprise this year, you're going to see Mick Foley come back. That's going to be my money on.
Give me a story about Mick Foley that nobody knows about, or have you ever, what's the deal with him? Because I remember Ric Flair calling him in some certain words like a glorified stagehand or glorified stuntman. Glorified stuntman. Is that how you feel about Mick Foley? How do you feel about Mick Foley and his?
No, I think when you look at hardcore wrestling, he's taking it up a level. I mean, this guy, everybody comes to see this guy. I don't know if the sock hasn't been washed in a few years, but dude love. And then you got Cactus Jack. I got a shirt around here, wanted Cactus Jack, dead or alive. So, these are the things when you look at, Mick Foley. I think he's done a lot for the company. I know he had that segment last year on, I believe it was A&E about, the struggles and everything. But yeah, he left his blood, sweat, and tears in the ring. I look for him to make an appearance this Saturday.
Well, it may make appearance on Saturday. Absolutely. You never know. That's what's so great about the Royal Rumble. Although the surprises have kind of, I don't know how many wrestlers you can surprise with, but thinking about Foley, he was in WCW for so many years. How did he not get over? How did they let him go to WWF with Vince McMahon at the time and make him a superstar? And then on top of it, you remember this, and we can get a chance to talk about the finger poke of doom, which is when Kevin Nash came into the ring. Hulk Hogan pushed him down with his finger. But before that, they gave away the results of the Foley Rock match. And of course, Foley ended up winning. How did WCW allow him to get out of that building?
Oh, there's been a lot of guys they've lost through there. Yeah, that's crazy. Bischoff dropped the ball or something because there was another guy in that organization, I believe, and I liked him, was Sid Vicious, Psycho Sid. There was another guy. I mean, I really loved when he came to the ring. But a lot of guys, WCW, I think, when WWE came in there and bought them out, that was the beginning of the end. That's what they do. They buy up these organizations like ECW, squash them. They're going to have a hell of a time trying to do that to AEW.
Yeah, I think so too, because it seems like, again, Tony Khan, not Nick Khan, no relation. Tony Khan, of course, son of Shad Khan, who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, is serious about this. Cody Rhodes is serious about this, of course. Let's move on here. Number 4 in the CBS poll here was actually, let me see if I can get to this, is Chris Jericho in 2013. Jericho making a surprise appearance. I don't expect him to go back to WWE anytime soon, right? I mean, you think he's entrenched with AEW?
I liked him, man. The Y2J problem.
Right, right.
He's put on weight now. He's been doing his band and everything. I had a chance to meet him. Great guy. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think he's got to get back and get back and hitting the weights again. He looks like he's, I know he's getting older, he's slouch a little, but man, oh man, seeing him resurface recently, I said to myself, man, this guy's got to tone down again. But I like Jericho. You never knew what he was going to be from one month to another. Heel, face.
Right. Well, and a lot of people say, and I remember hearing this story from Sting, because it was the deciding factor why he decided not to go to WWF at the time. When Y2J came out and The Rock basically said, "Who in the hell are you? What's your name?" and kind of just, bury WCW talent. With all that being said, do we not appreciate Chris Jericho enough in the wrestling business?
Yeah, the old school guys like you and I, we do. But yeah, the new school guys, I don't know. They probably got to look at highlights and stuff like that. Get on YouTube and watch some of the matches. But man,
he can talk too. He was great on the mic. He's been great on the mic for 10 to 15 years. And you look at him. I believe he's the first undisputed champion in WWE history. But nobody really talks about him, being up there in the pantheon, Leo word of greats of all time. And I think you got to eventually. I do.
Well, yeah, another guy, maybe Ted DiBiase. Money, 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 money.
Well, the $1 Million Man. I mean, that's another gimmick that was over. You're exactly right. All right, let's go to the third one on this CBS poll here. And it is actually John Cena 2008. Of course, him coming back from injury. Cena stood on stage, shocked everybody. This was in Madison Square Garden. Of course, Triple H's face. You saw that. I mean, do you remember that Royal Rumble with John Cena showing up after being out with an injury? And it looked like Triple H was going to win it, and then John Cena shows up. So, John Cena, how do you feel about him as a wrestler? How do you feel about him as
I'll tell you. Hustle, loyalty, respect. He's taken this industry, from the chains and all that stuff to, building a superstar pedigree in the WWE. And look at the movies he's doing, the Fast and Furious now. Yeah, I love John Cena, man. I mean, he's really done. His act never gets tired. He could talk to the best of them. Great mic skills. Might have the best mic skills of anybody other than maybe The Rock.
Well, I think CM Punk's also in there, and we talked about Chris Jericho. Number 2 here, Edge at 2020. This is right before the pandemic. I remember hearing rumors about Edge, how you went out with a neck injury. It's like something along the lines of he was in 2011. He comes out in 2020, and they say as a neck injury, he comes back out again. People are absolutely going crazy. I mean, how surprised were you not only that Edge got cleared, but he was in the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, gets rid of the horse collar and here he goes. I mean, yeah, they always pull surprises. That's why I'm saying this Saturday night, you're going to see it. Could be one or a couple of these guys,
Right.
Who knows what we'll see in this thing. But, God, maybe Bad News Brown.
I think you're going way back there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going way back there, Ron, with Mark Mancini, the madman himself. The number 1 appearance, 2016, AJ Styles. I remember when his music hit, nobody knew his music or what he was about. They watched him in TNA for so many years. In your opinion, do you feel like WWE missed out on some of his best years when he was in TNA, that they should have signed him as a free agent, going back to, kind of what their philosophy is? They don't sign high flyers or small guys. How surprised were you that AJ Styles eventually ended up in WWE?
Yeah, well, the rumors around the federations are this guy's a great guy in the ring with his skills, and outside the ring, he's a real caring guy. So, yeah, I think now the WWE's realizing what they have in this guy, and you got to push him. I mean, he's got great mic skills.
Sure.
The Omos thing, you didn't know where that was going to go because we thought he was going to be a heel and Omos was going to be a face. Now they've turned that, so that'll be interesting down the line.
Okay, the honorable mention here. You just mentioned the guy, the three faces of Mick Foley. I forgot this, but this was in '98, the Royal Rumble. You had Cactus Jack, number 1. Mankind is number 16. And Dude Love, number 28. He scored a total of 4 eliminations and lasted a combined 19 minutes and 21 seconds. Or not, yeah.
Wow.
19, I mean, crazy. And
Mankind was unbelievable. Dude Love was, all he had to do was pick up one of those 60s VW buses and roll into the arena with, and everybody, hand out peace pipes. But man, I like Mankind. And, when you look at these guys, I mean, the faces and everything, and to pull that out,
right?
Socko and everything. Like I said, I wonder if that sock was washed. I'm saying it wasn't. I got the over under. We might have to ask Harry what the over and under is on that sock being washed.
I don't even want to know at that point. I think it would probably be like this. I mean, honestly. Okay. Yeah. So who is your pick for the Royal Rumble on Saturday night? Who do you like to win it all? And who should, in your opinion, win the Royal Rumble that's going to best suit them? Is it Big E?
I think, that's where I was going to go, because Big E is a class act. I think Big E gets it. The most important thing here is to draw the number. When you got to go through a lot, that's a lot to go through, but they might have them go through a lot to get it. But my money's on Big E there. I really like Big E.
Okay. All right. Big E. Mark Mancini here, former XPW announcer. Go ahead and promote yourself here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Once again, thanks a lot for your time, but go ahead and promote yourself unless they don't know who you are.
Well, tomorrow on the Philadelphia's WWBB AM 860, Fred Wallen, Sirius XM, that gave me the opportunity, that coined the phrase, the world's worst handicapper, will be on that show tomorrow, along with Joey Buckholz, Utopian Baseball Universe. I lost a bet to him, so he gets to come on and roast me on that show. So it's going to be interesting tomorrow. And then next week, we got Burt Blyleven.
Nice. Burt Blyleven. All right. And your feeling on this is that Bonds and Clemens deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, period, right?
I can't go against what I throw out there. I believe they do.
Okay.
Mancini's can't go against that.
All right, Mark. The madman.
I love you, buddy. I love this show. The opportunity in Tampa, Florida.
Absolutely.
Man, we're going to get it on the Eastern Final with the Pens and Lightning, baby.
Sounds good, my friend. The madman, Mark Mancini of Mancini Media, XM Sirius Radio. I got to come on with you sometime on XM. I want to do that. I've never done that.
Yeah, we got to get Fred on that one, definitely.
All right, man. I appreciate you. See you next week here live on the Turnbuckle Talk on the Sports Web. All right, boss?
Love you, brother.
Love you too, brother. There you go. Good stuff there. Mark Mancini on with me. Let me go ahead and read these comments. And then I think we'll get out of here for the night. Actually, I really want to read these comments, and then I want to get into the Antonio Brown interview. I want to dissect it a little bit. That's what I plan to do. Let's see, 500 home runs to get in here. Give us picks for this weekend. You have to wait for that. Peter Malacca, Peter this. Baseball is going to need a miracle to be relevant again with this lockout. Roger Shue says you can have Tom Brady Pete. I'll take Marsha Brady. Okay. Roger says Randy Savage played first base for the White Sox. Yeah, he was he got cut, and then he decided to be a professional wrestler. True story. Steroids were legal in Major League Baseball at that time, not on the ban list. A-Rod is innocent. He's not. I'll disagree with you just like we have for the last 20 years. Roger Shue says, I agree with Harry. I don't know what that is. David says, I totally agree. Cheating is cheating. That's why I don't like Belichick and Brady. Someone talking steroids to the other one, knowing the other team's plays. I don't see the difference. Cheating is cheating. Christopher Cole. Don't forget, white boy Sosa, laugh out loud. Roger Shue says, here you get your pal from the White Sox on here to discuss this with someone who played the game, and we were trying to work on that. We'll work on that in the future, getting some Major League Baseball players that played. So thanks a lot for trying to steal my thunder. Roger Shue says, Sammy Sosa never failed a drug test. Charlie Hustle, Bay, Christopher Cole. That's why Sandberg retired, because he didn't want to use steroids. And let's see here, Family Affair. Let me go out to Dwayne Beatty, Uncle Dwayne. Peter, really good job having Denis Phillips on, because he's the best at the game of talking football and my all-time favorite meteorologist. He also brings so much to your conversations, and really appreciate him bringing our weather reports, and most of all, being there for you, your most exciting sports web show. Appreciate it. Who Day says Antonio. I will go ahead and fire the cannon for that one. Carl says NFL overtime has always sucked. Roger Shue, merge the divisions. And Christopher Cole says, I love Sting. I love Sting too. Was reading something the other day where that match didn't live up to the hype. That would be Hogan and, of course, Sting at Starrcade. And the reason why is because they didn't like how he looked at the time. He didn't have a tan, but he wasn't in his right mind. I just remember that whole botch. I tell you what, let's go out to this Antonio Brown interview in care of HBO, and I will stay on screen with you. Stand by. Here we go.
To the game on January 2nd, the game against the New York Jets at the Meadowlands. Were you given shots of Toradol?
Absolutely. Right before the game, I was given Toradol.
We actually have, Bryant, in the medical records that we've reviewed, evidence that the team regularly injected Antonio with Toradol. So,
all right, so I want to pause it right here. We'll keep on coming back to this. Of course, the NFL put out a memo saying that Toradol causes bleeding, but I'm not going to sit here and actually act like this guy doesn't know what's going in his body. He does. Remember, he's the guy that had the fake vaccination card, and the reason why he didn't want to take the vaccine is because he doesn't know what's in it. So I'm supposed to believe that he doesn't know Toradol is going to be a pain reliever, right? Right. Okay. Plus, he's also stating his attorney, which, by the way, go ahead and take a look at this for a minute. Did you see these guys? I mean, they look like they're completely blitzed. I mean, they look like they're high. Both of them had red eyes. Now, nothing against anybody, but if you're trying to portray yourself as innocent or you're not out of your freaking mind, it may be a good idea not to come to an interview high as a kite. Just saying. All right, let's continue. Here we go.
he couldn't feel the damage that he was doing to his ankle until it got to that threshold point where he told his coach, "Coach, I can't play because of my ankle."
By the way, he was also supposed to undergo surgery on January 18th. We have not heard anything. Also, I want to see these documents. Most likely won't see the documents, but if you do, who knows? All right, we'll commence. Here we go.
And the coach's response to that was get the F off the field.
Okay, so the Bucs shot you with Toradol in the week before the Carolina game, correct?
By the way, the Carolina game, he had 100 yards receiving. There was no complaints at all. He didn't look like he was favoring his ankle. Plus, remember, again, I get it. It's football. It's a football injury. You're playing at a football speed. But we do remember this guy skipping off the field with his shirt off, right? Jumping up and down, doing not sit-ups, doing jumping jacks. We remember that? Do we remember that? And it looked like his ankle was hurt. Not saying it wasn't, but, you know, this is kind of interesting in itself. All right, here we go. Once again, take a look at him.
Absolutely.
They shot you again before the Jets game, correct?
Absolutely.
And you played the first half and had 3 catches for 26 yards, correct?
Yes.
And Arians claims that at halftime then you were upset about not getting more balls thrown your way. True or false? Is he lying?
False.
Okay, first and foremost, that's probably not false because that has been Antonio Brown throughout his career. Remember, he quit on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's quit on other teams. And when he's not getting the ball and getting what he wants, And this has come out from various sources that that's the reason of what happened on the sideline, because at halftime, he wasn't getting his catches. He wasn't getting his incentives. Furthermore, we learned before the whole thing happened is that him and his agent wanted the Bucs to guarantee those incentives, and the Bucs declined to do it. Just providing some clarity here. Here we go.
It's not worrying about the ball. Tom Brady is my guy. He's the reason I'm on Tampa Bay, so I know.
Oh, Tom Brady is your guy. Really? Really? Tom Brady is your guy? Okay, well, let's go back into the comments here that you made a couple weeks ago on the Full Send podcast. Brady can't do anything by himself. That would be the word. Brady can't do by himself. But you guys are going to make it seem like he's just this heroic guy. Bro, we're all humans, bro. We're all dependent on somebody else to do the job. To me, a friend is someone who's got your back. Not everybody in sports is going to be your friend. Tom Brady's my friend. Why? Because I'm a good football player? He needs me to play football. People have different meanings of what friendship is. Also, consequently, he decided to implicate Alex Guerrero and basically put out there that Guerrero and Brady were stiffing him out of $100,000. But you take this guy's word, Brady is his guy. Be great, Antonio Brown. Here we go.
I'm going to get the ball.
Antonio, I saw where you seem to resent the feelings of so many former coaches and teammates that you were in need of mental assistance. Does that bother you?
Mental assistance from who?
Professional assistance.
To the extent any of that is coming from a spin that Antonio had a spontaneous mental episode, it's resentful and it's hurtful, and it's a disservice to people who do suffer from mental health challenges.
It certainly seems like he's had a lot of mental situations, right, throughout his career, whether it was with the Pittsburgh Steelers and giving up, whether it was off the field with stiffing chefs, stiffing this person, stiffing that, personal trainers, sexual stuff off the field. These situations keep on creeping up with the Raiders, now the Patriots, texting. All these situations seem to be creeping up, but yet the guy continues to sit here and say, I have nothing wrong with me. That's amazing how that works, right, guys? Okay, here we go.
We all have our difficulties, Antonio, myself, everybody.
Yeah, these guys at Tampa Bay Bucks try to make an agreement with me to give me $200,000 to go to the crazy house so these guys can look like they know what they're talking about. These guys are professional.
Wait.
They treated me
They
wrong.
offered you $200,000 for what?
The offer was Antonio would basically sit on the sidelines, go on some list, and commit himself to some form of intensive mental health treatment. And we were specifically told in writing by the general manager twice, don't spin this any other way.
Antonio, do you think you need mental help of any kind?
I have mental wealth, man. I know a lot of people may not understand me.
I have mental wealth. Yes, you do. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady have absolutely reached out to you from every given angle to try to help you out. And yet you put them on the spot and say, well, they were trying to offer me $200,000 to get you help. That's consistent. They were trying to help you out. They're the only team in the National Football League trying to help you out. This interview is ridiculous. And every time that Brown talks, he makes himself look even more ridiculous. I don't understand how fans can actually take this guy's side. I get it. There's two sides of the story, but this is pretty clear. This guy needs to hit rock bottom. Big time. And if the Baltimore Ravens are actually thinking about signing this dude, go ahead and look at his career. Look at his background. Look at what he's done. I got to tell you something. I think the whole turmoil comment from Levante David was this guy right here. Poisoning some of the players on this team. I'm not privy to that knowledge. I'm just saying. Just saying. All right, we'll read the rest of these comments. I wanted to read the comments on Facebook, which I will right now on this post, because I actually asked people here what they thought of the situation with Antonio Brown. So let me get to that. I asked them this question, and I'll go ahead and Hold on a sec here. Let me turn this down so nobody can hear it. I want to make sure we read these comments. I said, okay, Bucs fans and football fans, do you believe AB or no and would want him on your team? Why or why not? All right. 86 comments. 86. So who's ever out there saying, we don't want to talk about this anymore, you do want to talk about this. That's the reason why we have it here on the sports web. So I'm going to read some of these comments. Sitton says, F him. I hope he never gets another job. Jeff Cahill says, answer is hell no, plain and simple. He quit on his team. I would hope no NFL team would pick him up, but we shall see. Once again, going back to the Ravens, him wanting to play with Lamar Jackson. I don't think John Harbaugh has the cojones to do it. And why would you do it? He is a cancer to the locker room. Derek says, no. 33 years old, acts like that. Many young undrafted kids coming out of college deserve a better shot than he does. Alex Nutzer says, bro, did you see his post 2 days ago when the Bucs lost? Yes. Classless. Bucs are eliminated with his sign that he's holding in his hand, going off the field with the Jets. Classy. Maybe if this was his first time acting up, I believe him, but after 4 teams, nah. Emily says, what's wrong with encourage him to get help? Shh. You quit on your team, boy, bye. This is her comments, not mine. It's actually pretty funny. They want you healthy, mind and body, just like if your doctor tells you you sprained your ankle, they're going to treat it and handle it the way they think it should be treated. Same thing with the mind. If you see there could be some sort of disconnect, they're going to try and get you the support that you need to fix that. Next, take the pity party somewhere else. Isaiah, he's a liar. POS, his career is over. Career is over. The Bucs should sue him. Scott Marchant, headed for the CFL, USL. Earl Harris, cocaine's a hell of a drug. Jason, hell no. We should have not got him in the first place. I mean, all these comments right here. And I'm surprised because of the support for him when the Vax card came out and when this came out, people were saying, once again, the Bucs were at fault. But the more you hear him talk about it, the more you believe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and why not at this juncture. Roger Shue says, I agree with AB, and I agree with you. Christopher Cole says, we got veterans in the locker room that know that he was upset about not getting catches. Exactly. That's what it's all about. AB is about AB. And Carl Hardy says, I would be shocked if AB ever played in the NFL again. I agree with you. So with that said, we've been going a little bit late here. We'll get out of here. Thanks to Denis Phillips of ABC Action News. Thanks to Harry the Greek, professional handicapper extraordinaire, 1252 Chicago Sports, and Mark Mancini, former XPW announcer, also XM Sirius Radio and Mancini Media. Thanks to all the calls and all the texts. Appreciate it. We'll be back on Monday night here live at 9 o'clock on I Love St. Pete in the Hub. 3 things here on the Sports Web. We always say there's a quiz afterwards. Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blank, your Rolex reporter. Have a great night.
Stan Arthur here for the I Love St. Pete Facebook group. If you're a business owner looking to connect with tens of thousands of potential new local customers, you owe it to yourself to get enrolled in our Key Tag Rewards program. Since 2019, we've signed up more than 200 local merchants. Sponsor opportunities are available too, such as our group banner ad and even your own custom key tags. Just go to stpetekeytag.com, get enrolled, and get ready to get busy. stpetekeytag.com.
Come to Sam Ash for hundreds of exclusive holiday deals on music and sound gear from the most iconic brands. Save big on professional and starter guitars, drums, digital pianos, horns, violins, DJ, and electronic production equipment. Supercharge your home studio with deals on podcasting, streaming, and AV equipment like speakers, microphones, headphones, and acoustic treatment. Plus, with 36 months no-interest financing on thousands of items, you can get the gear of your dreams right now. From our incredible selection and service to our lowest price guarantee for over 95 years, real musicians know you only go to Sam Ash.
BetUS.com. If you guys are betting on the games, whether it's NFL, NCAA, of course, you're not going to do that now. Maybe basketball, not football, but of course, the NHL, NBA, go to BetUS.com. You get a 125% sign-up bonus. And also, if you use this code right here, the promo code of TSW22, which, by the way, stands for the sports web, TSW22, or call that number 1-800-69-BET-US. Again, 1-800-69-BET-US, and put in that promo code TSW22, and I would really appreciate that.
I've had 27 beers spilled on me. Make that 28.
I've only got one place to go before the game.
BetUS.com.
Sign up at BetUS.com and get the best bonuses in the industry.